Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Great start. Did you want to say something? What is it? Matic?
Matic, yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, very, very clear.
Nice to meet you, Nathan. Very nice to meet you. I was going to ask anyone if anyone here knows anything about celestial navigation. The reason I ask is because I've been discussing on the on one of the places here with somebody called you'll know the name Protothad. But he's trying to say that celestial navigation proves that the Earth is a globe. Now, I went into this thing about I was going to go into this thing about a flat baseline that that part of the argument, but then he showed me this diagram that reminded me of. He showed me a diagram that reminded me of something Nathan showed quite a time ago, which he called a donkey dick refraction, because he was trying to. I asked him to show me a place where because he said the line of sight to the horizon is bent, and that they use maths to correct it, to straighten it, and to make it line up. And I said, give me a citation. And he showed me this diagram that was almost exactly like the donkey dick, where there was three horizons: a sensible horizon, the geometric horizon, and the visible horizon, and then some line that looked like it was bending to the ground. It just showed me that, one, I don't know that much about celestial navigation, and two, it showed me more that it's all based on circular logic, where it's just, I don't know if I can show the diagram, I don't know how to, but
I've got it presented, actually,
it just shows me. Oh yeah, oh, you've got it. Oh good.
Yeah.
It just shows me that it's always begging the question. I keep on asking him, show me how it's proved that the Earth is a ball, and show me how there's three horizons. But he makes empty claims that it's already been shown, and that the maths used in celestial navigation straightens the baseline and corrects it. I just not sure exactly how to. I can deal with the fact that it's all just begging a question. So to me, that throws out the diagram. But I'm not sure if there's anything else I should do with it.
Well, we've only got one horizon, and the horizon in there begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is the one marked in this diagram as the geometric horizon or the geometrical horizon. Well, what's this visible horizon in the mid-air in Muppet Vision? Visible horizon, mid-air, not where even in Muppet Vision the sky meets the ground or sea. Visible horizon in the middle of the... No. What are they measuring to when they say visible horizon? It's got a dip correction from this point into the middle of space. It's just complete bollocks. Meanwhile, right, while they're saying the horizon's refracted, right, you've got a visible horizon that's actually the refracted horizon, why has it got a straight line to it then? Right? And furthermore, all of these require angles that if the lines are bent, why are they asserting that you've got two straight lines? If the very claim in itself from Protothud is that it's refracted, correct? Where's the bent line? All right, they'll bend it, but then we'll point out that the bend is using R. And if you can't see the geometric horizon, you can't measure R to give you the value to bend that second line to a point in space in this diagram called the visible horizon. What's visible about it? Is that the visible point where the sky meets the ground? Well, not even in this diagram, no. Oh, no, they have got a donkey dick in there. I just couldn't see it because it was so small on my OBS preview. Yeah, okay, there is a donkey dick. Here we go. Donkey dip. So what are they correcting from? They're saying the visible horizon's in midair, but you've got three horizons, the geometrical horizon and this curved line meeting it. What's that curved line doing there? Oh, that's the one that they'll need R for, because that's the one based on 7/6 of a radius value. How do you measure R? Oh, they can't, because they've no longer got a geometric horizon visible. So it's all a complete nonsense. We've debunked every aspect of it, but it's quite intricate, right? So unless you know all of that little spiel that I've rattled off, it's hard to combat when someone just sticks a Muppet Vision diagram and says, you see the side of your own head, and when you do, you see the side of Earth as a sphere, and we're doing a dip correction to the three horizons, and the donkey dick. And you're like, all right, okay, that makes sense. Well, no.
Are you, including that it's all below surface level as well?
It hasn't got that marked in this one. It's got observer's eye, and then it's got sensible horizon, right? Which is horizontal. This is a big problem, by the way. I've noticed it come up in a few comments recently where my rebuttal has been, all right, you don't like the fact that celestial navigation requires level, requires straight lines, requires horizontal, requires a lot of Euclidean axioms to be adhered to. What have you got left? Well, they've got the assumption that level runs parallel to the centre of a sphere Earth, don't they? Shockingly, that's a housekeeping question. It's all falling apart around them at the moment. It's pretty bad. It's just a shame we're so heavily censored. Censorship's not the right word, though, is it? We're not censored. We're just, pushed into some little dark corner, and all of our opponents are heavily promoted. So we receive no promotion as opposed to being censored.
We're not in a dark corner anymore. We're out there.
No, we're not. Oh, speaking of being out there,
there's a problem. There's a problem when you don't express sea level in the Earth's current mathematics, because eye level requires a flat plane. That's what you're going to be doing every calculation from that measurement of eye level.
Correct.
If they're going to curve sea level, then they have a contradiction they're not going to be able to deal with.
Yeah, we're seeing how badly the maths falls apart at this stage. When we first got into it 4 years ago, or whatever, when the debate started, and we were looking at the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective, hijacking Earth curve calculator, and being hoodwinked by our opponents into believing that we should be or shouldn't be seeing this or that amount of Earth curve blockage. Well, now we're into, look how badly it falls apart when they contradict themselves with three horizons and donkey dicks and R-based values that they can no longer measure. Isn't it embarrassing what they resort to? And this is what they resort to. 3 horizons? 4, if you count the donkey dick? What have you got?
Well,
you've got observer's eye line running horizontal, and you've got it running parallel to the plane. Then you've got a parallel plane and an eye level that's not running perpendicular to the centre of a sphere Earth. And you need these axioms to make all of these geometric assertions. In other words, in every single account, you're going to need a flat Earth.
Yeah, especially the eye level and sea level, when they try to curve sea level. But, level has a meaning, and it's I guess it bothers them, doesn't it?
It's not that it bothers them, it's an
Is
axiom
this
within the maths that
picture-
they're using. So because it's required within the maths to make the assertions, as stupid as it is to say the sea level curves, and you've pointed it out, that's where the contradiction lies. Well, it lies within their axiom that they're applying within the Euclidean geometry that's being used. So it's not that it's a problem, it's that it completely defeats their own principles within the maths that they're using to make their claim.
Is this picture from the caller what Protothat put up? Is that what the caller's saying?
What Righteous sent, I assume he got it from the gentleman that was speaking a moment ago.
I
Let's
got it
get
from
that
Discord.
verified. Is the caller still on the
Are
from
you
the
still
caller,
there, caller?
who
Hello?
posted it?
You still on hold?
I'm still here.
Can you just enjoy
Can
some
you hear me?
elevator music? While we
Hi,
talk about you for a few
this
moments.
can't.
No, I just don't interrupt. That's all right.
Oh, good.
Let me ask you can I ask him a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Is this picture Protofad posted this picture? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. I asked him to give me a
Okay.
citation that because I asked him about the baseline, and he said that the baseline. I said is the base because I was asked about spheres, and then triangles and angles, and then because the baseline would have to be flat. But he said no, actually it's bent. But the way they do celestial navigation, they use the maths to straighten the line, and that's the citation he gave me, that the maths straightens the line.
When does a sailor straighten
Okay.
a line
Well, let's
with
get
math?
something straight. Hang on.
Hang in.
Let's get something straight. I posted this picture. I posted this picture when we were going through celestial navigation. He got it from us, from FED. This is easy to understand. All the measurements are from the equatorial plane, which is not shown in this picture. Is the equatorial plane a straight baseline?
Yes.
And the answer is yes. Okay, so the sensible horizon and the visible horizon are one and the same once you do height of eye correction, because it's taking your eyeballs, putting on the sea surface, or you will have parallel lines there. That dingleberry doesn't belong there. That's the trick. So what's a sextant? It's an angle measuring device. Very simple. What's an angle? Two lines meeting at a common point called the vertex. In their own books, the actual measurement is coming from a plane called the equator. That is a straight line. So the sensible horizon is a fictitious line that matches the equatorial plane because it's straight. Now, if you take a curved line next to a straight line and you put two GPs, say the sun 4,000 miles away and the observer 4,000 miles in the other direction, that could never work if it's diverging zeniths. This is so comical. The guy's totally misleading everybody with his jargon. He doesn't know what celestial navigation is. He knows how to confound people by it and use the trick that's been set there, which is this dingleberry in the curved line. And as John said, you'd be going through the earth.
Well, he's after doing two or three, saying two or and doing two or three different things there that are completely wrong. For a start, 7/6R, what he's calling refraction, is not refraction. It's mathematics. It's mathematics. It's not refraction. It's an increase in the size of their globe. So they mathematically increase the size of their globe, but then also mathematically using angles from the center of their globe, keep the objects they want to see at the same distance from the observer. So the horizon changes its position, but everything else stays equal. That's what they have to do within their mathematics. So that's not refraction. That's just maths, just nonsense. Secondly, you asked them for a citation, he gave you a diagram. So a diagram is not a citation. And then thirdly, all elevation angles are taken from the surface. No elevation angle is taken from the center of the Earth or any globe or anything like that. So they have to actually do the measurement from the surface first. But where Prototad and the rest of them go wrong is when you do that measurement, the baseline of the elevation angle becomes the radius of a circle of equal latitude. But you ask him to show you what happens to that radius, and he'll show you a bent line. Do curved radii exist?
Do bent
That's what you
radii
need to ask
exist?
him.
Did you ask if bent
Yeah.
radii exist? No, that's a nonsense.
Yeah, but that's what Prototad is claiming. He's actually claiming a bent radius. That's what he's actually claiming.
Has that actually helped?
You can get an angle from a curved line too.
I just want to ask the guy who's asking this, because we've just bombarded him with quite a lot of information. Has that actually helped?
To be plain, one of the reasons I'm glad this is recorded is that I can listen to it again. But just hearing it, I don't have like any tool that I'd use to respond with, apart from just saying this is all a begging the question fallacy, including baseless assertions about three horizons. Apart from the things I already know, because I don't know enough within myself about celestial navigation, the information given to me would just be what I heard that I'd parrot, but it's not understood within me enough to,
Okay, well, I'll give you, so you can listen back to it, I'll give you one sentence, which I would respond to this if it was presented to me as it's been presented to you, which is to say that, let's put the diagram back on, we only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is the geometric horizon. It's marked with an X and labelled horizon in their maths and where they get their R value for, in this case, refraction, based on R. So we've only got one, and you're saying it's not the one we're looking at. Well, it's not the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator's version of the horizon blocking your view of boats and buildings. That's for damn sure, because if it's refracted, we haven't got an R value. Several sentences as opposed to just one, but that's as much as I would be able to rattle off before they interrupted me.
Is the horizon they're asserting at surface level?
No, they don't have that one. I didn't quite get to it last time. I said they've got the eye level, but they haven't got, that's marked with sensible horizon for those looking at the diagram right now, but they haven't got surface level. Now, it is in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, because you're going to require it. But it isn't in this. But as Tenth said, he's got this from us. And what are they going to do with this after they've asserted three horizons? Well, what they're going to do afterwards is they're going to transpose it down to the equatorial plane to make the angles work. That's what they're actually going to do, but it just doesn't include that. It's just taken one little cherry-picked section with three horizons in it.
Well, that's the refracted
Mariner
one, right?
at sea is...
Hold on, Tenth. Go ahead, John.
Well, that's the refracted one, the Andrew Thomas Young one, where he has a straight line to the geometric horizon and a bent line to a apparent horizon. Is that the one you're talking about?
It's slightly different, but it has got a donkey dick in there, yes.
Well, the reason they're using that is they're not using eye level or surface level. They're just drawing tangents.
Yeah, I did address that in response to the guy, which is to say that why have they got straight lines drawn? Where do they get these straight lines from? According to them, the line is bent at a rate of the radius, which they can't measure. So why are you drawing out these straight lines? What's this all about? There isn't any straight lines. You've got curved lines. Oh, they have included it. It's just not labelled. So you've got a bent line above from observer's eye to geometrical horizon. But it crosses at the point of the geometric horizon at the tangent. You're like, what's going on here? It's just a hodgepodge. You said you got this sense. This is presumably on the page 84 of where we could do it on a sphere if we ignore the fact we're taking elevation angle measurements from a flat surface.
These are all images I posted up, then they went to use to debunk us, but they can't debunk us because the whole idea is that when you're holding a sextant, you have two mirrors. And one of them is called the horizon mirror. Now, the only time you don't use a horizon mirror with a sextant is if you have a leveling device in the sextant or attached to it, like a spirit level, which they call a bubble sextant. The whole concept there is if you're in a plane and the clouds are covering anything below you, if you're at low elevation, say 10,000 feet or whatever, or if you're higher at 30, 40,000 feet, you can use the spirit level to mirror the horizon mirror, what it does at sea level. So when you hold that spirit level bubble sextant at 30,000 feet, it's a horizontal straight line that you get your perpendicular of your 90. So now if you'd say, what if I'm at sea and I don't have a spirit level in my sextant and I have to use the Earth's horizon? Oh, that's easy. How high are you above sea level? 10 feet, I'm on my sailboat. Great. Subtract that so you can get to sea level so that could be straight. That would match the one at 40,000 feet. So two parallel lines. Guess what all that matches? The equatorial plane. Guess what's not needed? The dingleberry. So none of this is happening the way they say, but it is happening in the way the sextant works. You need a baseline, you need a 90, and you need to subtract elevation, your altitude. And the co-altitude is your zenith distance.
Oh, we lost G+. Or have we just lost 10th man?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I was going to say...
I'm here.
We've also got another
Yeah.
problem, which is on screen now, right? So, HE in this diagram is 1.76 times the square root of HE, which is the observer's height in feet, in this case in meters, when we describe it as whatever we describe it as. 1.2 times the square root is observer's height in feet, as opposed to 1.76 of the observer's height in meters, or the square root thereof. Where do they get HE from? Let's have a look how Al-Biruni gets it. This height of this mountain is acquired by an elevation angle measurement taken from a curved baseline? No, from a flat plane. That's how you get the height. How are you going to get the height? Well, you've got to measure it somehow. Well, according to this diagram, this is how Al-Biruni did it. He took the height of the mountain from a flat plane and then ignored the fact that he'd got a flat baseline to assert that he's got a tangent point to a curved surface. Well, if he had a tangent point to a curved surface, he wouldn't have the height of the mountain. And he measured the height of the mountain off a flat plane, like you do with all of these elevation angle measurements when you're taking measurements to stars to do celestial navigation, like Protothod's arguing with this diagram. So which one is it? You've got to have a flat plane to measure height HE. Well, why isn't that included? John? I don't know why. It's not included in this diagram, but it's absolutely essential. It's part of their geometry. You've got to have a flat plane. Flat plane required. That's what I say to Protothod every time he leaves a comment. Because he mentions elevation angles in every single comment. I'm like, you're going to need a flat plane for those.
Yeah, the leaving what level, right? Because I've seen them do the trick where they ignore surface level and just talk eye level and then assert that that's at your feet is tangential to a sphere. But they're ignoring, what level means at that point. If they're going to describe it as from the center of Earth, then they don't have eye level either to draw angles from. So it's just a screw.
It's game over, yeah, on every front. They need level. And level can't be running parallel to the center of a sphere Earth. That's why that housekeeping question's so epic. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by... Find my studio light button, turn off. There we go. 10th Man Rising, Brian's Logic, Righteous Force, Refracted Curvature, Neil, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Pleasure to be here. Glad you're all as excited about this as I am. I can tell. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, that's a horizon marked with an X, labelled horizon, in the Earth curve maths, and formerly known as Earth curvature.
Is that the
No.
point where eye level or your eye line meets sea level?
No,
Or
it's
is that where, what are they saying that is?
Below
Or
surface
I don't
level.
even know what their claim on that is anymore.
Below surface level, John. Your point. I love it. But I play along. Below surface
Yeah.
level, John.
It's a constantly invisible location. 100% of the time invisible.
Yeah, we're not expecting to see the geometric horizon, even though they've derived a lot of maths and geometry from the geometric horizon being seen and being measured and giving them an R value. But when we point out that you can't get an R value because you can't see a geometric horizon, they tell us we wouldn't expect to see it and it only exists in the maths. That is to say, Earth curve only exists in maths. It's not your horizon. We've only got one, and their horizon's geometric. We debunked it. Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to the horizon, when measured, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as detailed in the Begging the Question Proof of Nothing Perspective Hijacking Earth Curve Calculator. The Black Swan shows demonstrably that the horizon is beyond the limitations of a geometric sphere edge Earth curve horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere and the horizon is not Earth curve. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Good morning, guys.
Hey,
No,
Chocolate.
their own documents state that for their instrument, good morning, Chocolate. Their own documents state that for their instruments and aircraft to work, they have to regard the Earth as motionless. This is from NASA and McDonnell Douglas, Martin Marietta, Boeing. Everything is the Earth is not moving when it comes to instruments working.
Yeah.
Well, sorry.
I was just going to agree. If they didn't assert that, then they'd assert that there was a void opening up ahead of them at 8 inches per the mile squared, and that would mean that there was an open area of space to fly in. Now, if you head to an open area of space that's opening up ahead of you, 8 inches per mile squared, a void to fly in, and it isn't there, what do you think's going to happen? Well, you're going to hit the ground, because there's no void. It just carries on ahead of you, flat. Well, if it's carrying on ahead of you flat, and it's not falling away from you, then you better deal with it as flat or you'll die. It's that simple.
Well, what do
If
you
that-
need to have?
If that was the
Oh, hold on,
case,
John. Hold on. Go ahead, Brian.
axis?
No, it's okay. It's not important. I'll get back to you in a minute. Thank you.
Go ahead, John.
What do you need to have an axis?
Why do we need to have a what? An axis?
Yeah.
We don't. They assert that we do. It's their positive assertion.
Well, I mean, you got to
why
have
would a ball need an
Need
axis?
a radius, John.
right.
Any evidence of Earth radius, that's the R value asserted with an axis.
Well, since the black swan, they can only go to one measurement, but Brian's already took care of that.
Yeah, their measurement we discussed, I don't know if it was in the pre-show at the beginning of this live show, but you need a geometric horizon. Al-Biruni, after measuring the Earth as flat to get the height of the mountain, ignored the height of the mountain measurement off the flat plane. He measured the elevation angle measurement to the top of the mountain to get its height, to then use that height, ignoring the flat plane he just measured, to assume that the ground's curving away from him with a void opening up at 8 inches per mile squared, and he's got a line that's now tangent to it. Obviously violating his first measurement, but that indeed required a geometric horizon for Al-Biruni to measure to derive the R value. If you haven't got a geometric horizon, you haven't got an R value to measure because you haven't got an Earth curve to measure, or claim he's blocking boats and buildings with its physical hill-like nature. Because it isn't. That's not our horizon. We've debunked it. 1st Jan 2020, Black Swan. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
It's in the sky.
It just seems to be not possible to get evidence for that.
You're here now, Brian. I'm sure we covered this the other day, but someone asked me specifically to cover a YouTuber, flat earther, guy with good intentions, talking about measuring the sky, measuring the height of the sun in the sky with angles to it. And yeah, it's not something I want to necessarily pull apart and ridicule, because it's a reasonable assumption if you don't understand that the angle doesn't change as you raise in elevation, or the fact that if it's changing in angle as it gets closer to the horizon, that would assert with your measurement that it's closer to the ground. So it's kind of riddled. I've kind of done the job for you, really, Brian, but I don't know if you want to reiterate that.
Well, yeah, you basically nailed it. Like, you're able to just keep it simple with all these things, Nathan. Well, if I take a 45-degree angle to the sun, and even if other people take 2 other different angles at the same time to the sun from their locations, when that sun for me is at a 44-degree angle or a 46-degree angle, then all our measurements will be completely different. So whatever height I attribute, let's say a 45-degree angle, I attribute, I don't know, 3,000 mile height to it, based on using the lengths of sides of the internal angles of the triangle I'll be using. I won't be using elevation angles at that point. I'll be using like trigonometry, basically measuring the distance between the horizon, the angular distance between the horizon and the bottom of the sun. So at that point, when I do that, if I want to make that into reality, it's going to be impossible, because I have to be able to measure the height of the sun when it's at my 90 degrees, when it's directly over my head. That's the only way you'll be able to ever ascertain the height of the sun. Because as soon as that sun is not at that 90 degrees, then all you're measuring is perspective. And as the sun moves, you are going to change your measurement change your calculation with each measurement. So you'll come up with a different height of the sun at each degree. So 46 degrees will be different from 45 degrees, 45 degrees will be different from 44 degrees, etc. You'll never be able to measure the height of it using angles. But who is telling flat earthers they can do this are globe earthers. They were the very people that were telling us that it was a possibility back years ago. And some of the flat earthers did fall for that, because they want you to go out and measure angles to the sun and come up with some ridiculous, stupid height that they then know that they will easily debunk. And that's all they want. So don't go making claims about the height of the celestial bodies, because not only will they attack you for it, I will attack you for it. And other people in the flat earth will attack you for it. Just stay away from it. We don't know what they are. We don't know how they do what they do. We don't know what height they are, or even if they have a height. So stay away from them. They're not something you can geometrically prove anything about.
Well, further to that, Brian, you've pointed it out quite nicely for me to lead off with something that I pointed out last week at the beginning of one of the live shows, which is that don't let them flip the burden. If you're being asked why something is some way, or where something is, or how high, in this case, something is, don't immediately bite on their question. Ask yourself this: have I made a claim about this? Do I need to make a claim about this? And when the answer is no to both of the above, say, is it the case that perhaps they're asking because they do have a positive claim about it? And it's far easier for them to take apart your positive claim about it before they even make that claim. Whereas if you turn around and say, I haven't made any claims about how high the sun is. When did I need to make a claim about that? Does that prove the Earth's flat? I'm not making a claim about that. Are you making a claim about it? Oh, yes, you most certainly are. You've got a 93 million mile away sun with an R value you can't measure. So we can rip apart every part of your claim with your distance to your stars. Lights in the sky. Can't we? What's that? I need to offer an alternative? No, I don't. I can just take a giant steaming dump on your claim that needs an R value that we've debunked. Your scaling values that superimpose that R value onto Venus and apply Kepler's third law of begging the question interplanetary motion. Yeah, we can rip apart every part of their claim. Don't find yourself hoodwinked into a false dichotomy simply because they need to flip the burden onto you because their weak-ass claim fails. Don't follow up with claims you haven't made. Same goes for most things in this debating arena when it comes to the nature of Earth. I saw a few comments. I think one was from Phil Bell. Oh, so that your answer is, I don't know what the horizon is. Yeah, that's right. Do I care? Does it matter? You're the ones with the positive claim you need to defend about the horizon being Earth curve, and we have debunked it. What's that? You want me to now go into what the horizon is? I don't care. Not required. At all, for me, personally. But it is for you, isn't it? Because it's Earth curve. It's a fundamental premise for your worldview. And when I debunk it, I'm not going to offer any alternatives to make you feel better. I'll just debunk your claim about what the stars are, debunk your claim about what the stars are in terms of their elevation, and debunk your claim about what the geometric horizon is when you assert it's a leading edge to give you an R value to make the claims about those distances to those stars you feel it requires me to give you an answer for? No, it does not. Don't let them flip the burden on you. It's not your responsibility to come up with maps, to come up with models, to come up with heights to stars, to come up with all the celestial information that they're providing you with after you've made your crappy assertion about what you think it does. Well, believe me, their crappy assertion's got a lot more behind it to make it seem convincing. Focus on that. Focus on what they're actually claiming, understand it, and then take it apart. And once you've done it, you can stand back, look at the tattered nonsense that is heliocentric claims, and at no point will you have ever thought, oh, I really needed to explain that along this journey, because you didn't. Hope that's clear. Any evidence you can have a gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Well, what is the sky?
I knew it. I love it. You can read my mind. What's that you say, John? What's the sky? Why would I need to be explaining what the sky is? Have I made any claims about what the sky is? Do I need to make any claims about what the sky is? I can talk about making elevation angle measurements and how they're utilised for celestial navigation, but I'm not making any claims about what the sky is. What's that you say? It's a vacuum.
A vacuum? This nice breath that I just took, that kind of debunks the fact that I'm also in a vacuum simultaneously.
If the sky is a vacuum, then Neil deGrasse would have his last name be Dyson, not Tyson.
Yeah, the sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill that space. Gas expands in all directions at a high velocity to fill whatever volume it's got to fill. It's called entropy. Second law of thermodynamics violations like the sky vacuum aren't real. Doesn't mean I need to explain what it is. I just know what it isn't. It's not a place that we can travel through to get to the moon. It's not a place we can travel through to get to Mars. It's not a place that we can enter to orbit and fall around a presupposed spherical Earth. All of these things are debunked. We have debunked them. Any evidence of it?
If the sky was a vacuum, like we'd all be in a vacuum also, because there would have never been any gas pressure formed in the first place. So it definitely can't be a vacuum.
Yeah, exactly, Chocolate. It can't be a vacuum first and then gas pressure occur. You can create a vacuum once you have gas pressure and something to create the temperature. You can create a low-grade vacuum then, but you need to have gas pressure first, which means you need a container first. because you need a container for temperature, gas pressure, and vacuum. But you can't have a vacuum and then create gas pressure. That doesn't happen. Show me any vacuum where you can create gas pressure within the vacuum. No, create your vacuum first, then create gas pressure in the center of it. You won't be able to.
You mean
But you can create a low-grade vacuum
hold on?
off of gas
You mean in a shape in the center of the vacuum? Because I can make gas pressure in any vacuum. I just put a gas in it, and there it is. What you mean is, show me gas pressure inside the vacuum, taking the shape of a sphere, akin to like atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. The Earth claimed to be a sphere with gas around it in a vacuum. Show me that. Show me a little dot that's, I don't know, 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters, a spherical 5 centimeters. Yeah? That, with gas, not expanding out. It reaches a certain point and stops. It goes, I'm going to stay in this little circle here. This little sphere shape. This is my world. I'm going to stay here. Show me that. That's never going to happen.
Well, what
You can't.
what about plasma? It seems to follow that.
No, plasma has electromagnetic properties. So plasma is held in place within via toroidal field.
Hold on.
If you want,
No, hold on. Let's
if you
not
want
discuss it that quickly. I've asked, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Let's hear the explanation from John.
Oh, I was playing a game. Plasma isn't gas. That's the right answer.
But you can think of it as a gas. It's described often as being a gas plasma.
Yeah, but it's not a gas, though.
Let me just
It's a
support what I
fourth
said
state.
earlier. Sorry.
It's a fourth state of matter, the highly energized. It's not gas.
That's right. It's not.
Okay.
It responds
I still want the
to
answer. That might be the case. Sorry, Brian. We will get to you. But can you show me that fourth state of matter often described as gas plasma without a container? Not filling availability of volume.
Well, it would fit the description y'all were asking for of a small area within a less pressurized area.
Go on. Tell me more.
But like Brian said, it's operating with the toroidal field, magnetics, intermolecular bonds. It's not the same as gas.
And this takes place. This is a demonstration without containment.
Well, y'all allowed it to happen within a vacuum chamber, is in the previous example.
Oh, I see. Because we've gone on to how we can demonstrate things within a container and say, no, this isn't even possible within a container. You've said, they've allowed containment first. So if I step into the container and ignore the container and then describe gas plasma being held, I can kind of allude to the idea that gas pressure doesn't require containment. Is that the trick or game you were suggesting you were playing?
Yeah. Once you allow the container and then start talking about pressures within the container, then you kind of put your own foot in your mouth.
No, I don't. No, not at all. I don't mind talking about it within the container. By comparison, obviously with you playing a globe believer, where's the comparable, vacuum chamber for this example around Earth for us to have the gas pressure within a container, not within a container, when it's in a heliocentric world that hasn't got containment around it? Is it by equivalent like the vacuum chamber with massive thick walls around Earth?
No.
So not foot in my mouth. Far from.
Hold on a sec. But you said you wanted an example of pressure within that vacuum chamber.
Well, we didn't ask for an example of
forming
that. I asked for
ball.
gas pressure without a container, and then we went on to detail how things behave within containers. But ultimately, I know you saw an opening. I then closed it.
Right. But you did open it.
I did open it, you're right. But obviously, the door being open for not to leave me with my foot in my mouth, but leave me asking how, by comparison, we have a gas chamber vacuum capable around Earth to then have a vacuum with the gas pressure on Earth inside that massive container? Definitely not.
You mean
Just
we
because you
can't
know how to
use
get
that
out of the
tactic?
trap doesn't mean you didn't step in it.
We can't use the same tactic that the guy came in here one time and said, yeah, I completely understand that we need a containment for gas pressure, but let me tell you all about how we don't have containment and we have gas pressure here on Earth. You mean that's not cool?
Hold on, just because Nathan knows how to get out of the trap doesn't mean he didn't step in the trap.
Okay, I'll pretend I'm not squirming. I'll pretend I'm having to gnaw my own leg off.
I was just saying if that globe tactic was cool to use or not, but apparently not.
No, once you
Wait a second,
concede...
talking. When did somebody come on and say that?
No, it's conspiracy cat syndrome. It's not like you can need to give us particular examples. There's plenty. But one example would be conspiracy cats. Once you've conceded that you can't have gas pressure without a container, you can't then move forward and comfortably sleep at night, making examples that have no containment. Psychologically, that's painful. I mean, they do, but, you know, cognitive dissonance is a bitch that we don't have to endure.
One of the guys came here.
Say again?
Sorry, Nathan.
No,
I was going to say to Neil that one of these guys came in here and did that. I think it was one of the guys that was after the Bitcoin or something. If my memory serves correct. But yeah, that's happened.
Normally it comes with a bit of projection, like telling us that we shouldn't be hung up on it, or we should be getting over the fact that we need containment, or things like that, you know.
Exactly.
I don't think a specific example is needed. It's happened more than one time.
My favorite is the flat plane.
Say again, Neil?
My favorite is I'll give you the flat plane. What was that? Conspiracy cats too, right?
No,
Yeah,
that
I
was
was going to say that's it.
Projethad.
No, conspiracy cats did that in the Black Swan, Blackpool Black Swan.
Oh, right, Blackpool Black Swan, yeah. What he had to do in order to make his assertions about the angular sizes was to, quote, give you the flat plane. And then QE was very prompt to point out, no, you're talking about measuring angles, right? Like elevation angles? Well, you're going to need a flat plane for that. So even back then, well before we got into the elevation angle argument, at the time, this is quite embarrassing for me really, because QE pointed this out to me over and over again. I can't remember for the life of me what aspect I was fixated on at the time, but I was, and QE kept pointing it out to me. He's like, no, you're not getting it. He's saying I'll give you a flat plane, but he's only giving it because he has to. He can't do this without it, so he needs it. And QE laid it really out, like black and white, really laid it on thick for me. I say thick because that's what I was, thick, because I didn't get it until several months later. When I went back to him, it's like, oh, it always happens like this. It makes me feel really stupid, but it's great. So I go back to him, I'm like, you do realise, right, in the Blackpool Swan, that he couldn't have done that without taking the angle off a flat plane. And then QE turned around to me and was like, yeah, I laboured that bloody point with you for ages and you just couldn't get it through your thick head. He didn't say that, but the implication was there, right? I was like, oh, yeah, I do vaguely remember you pointing it out at labouring it over and over again and me not understanding the significance of the point. But yeah, QE caught that immediately. You're going to need a flat earth for that. And the way that Conspiracy Cats phrased it was, I'll even give you the flat plane in this instance. By give it you mean you'll absolutely require it in all circumstances, because Earth's flat and that's the only way you can make these assertions and measurements off a flat plane with angles. And that's what he was doing. He was talking about angular sizes.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, globe warriors still use the same. They still use the elevation angles to prove the globe. I've been pointing that out, but it's hard for them to understand that they've lost it already.
Yeah, I know. It's quite funny though. Shout out to Godzilla. Eli was killing it on 24/7 Flat Earth Discord last night. He needs more airtime on your show. He's got a housekeeping question getting credit for, on an almost daily basis. Credit where credit's due, and people should go out and sing these praises all over YouTube. Because there is a hero amongst us, and his name is Bev Try Thinking. Shout out to you, my friend, for labouring this point for such a long time. Any evidence you can get.
That was a good one.
Poor Eli.
You can't get off that easy with that. That was funny.
Shout out to Godzilla for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Any evidence that level runs equidistant to the centre of Earth? No, in all seriousness, shout out to Eli. This is his question. He's been nailing people to the wall with this. So yeah, in all seriousness, Eli, good question. We even discussed it before we got here in the pre-show. I know you annoyingly started to enter as I was doing my intro, but there we go. That's life. But we weren't giving you the props, but we were certainly using the argument in the pre-show in regards to people that had come back to us in comments about elevation angle measurements in exactly this vein of subject. To say, no, you're taking level or horizontal to mean level or horizontal or flat. You're like, yeah. And you need it as part of your axiom. Here you go. Here's several examples where the globe Earth requires it. You can't bend this level surface level, in your maths. Yeah, it's required, Dumbo. That's why we're still here. That's why I'm a bit more confident in these last few months, because we can't be censored out of all existence. It's like saying, we're going to censor out the means of navigation out of all existence. No, you can't do that. It's absurd. We're going to censor out of existence the way we developed the globe model and will be developing further models in the future. No, you're not going to be doing that either. That's all flat. So that's why we have to be ridiculed as opposed to just censored. Right? You can't get rid of us. So just keep us suppressed in as best way possible, and the best possible way is ridicule. So that's what we get. That's our lot in life, right? Yeah, it's better to be ridiculed and right than wrong and suffering cognitive dissonance with the world behind you also in cognitive dissonance if they know this subject. Or if they don't, they're in blissful ignorance, and if you do, you're jealous of them because you want to be them. Those ignorant, blissful masses who don't realise they're being lied to about the nature of their very reality. But if you're here, Dan and Katz and Protothad and all the other people we talk about, yeah, they're in hell. That's where they are, not me. I'd rather be ridiculed and right, thank you very much. I sleep a lot better at night, because I don't give you guys telling me how wrong I am when I'm not any concern, but I find out daily how much concern you guys give me now, don't I? Flattered.
But the ridicule works out very well for them, right? Because if you're dealing with ridicule and trying to understand how that's coming from people that you're trying to convince or whatever, those people, they're not going to focus on the reality that they live in. And sometimes that's kind of just what you need. It's just somebody to focus on reality, because what they're telling us, their narrative is literally the opposite of that. So yeah, hit them with the ridicule and the insults and the ad homs, because all of that takes away from somebody concentrating on what they've experienced their entire life.
It's
a
pain
beautiful
relief.
tactic, man.
We call it pain relief, right? They need an outlet so that they don't have to face the cognitive dissonance or consider the possibility, as Katz put it, or have to consider the outlying possibilities that you'd consider if you realise the nature of Earth isn't as you've been told, i.e. been lied to. It makes you consider those other things that Katz discussed on Haunted Houses show. In the third party, his friend was feeling that way, nudge, nudge. Well, those things would be better off suppressed with ridicule, because you can have a little laugh about how stupid the people around you are and you know better. And the you knowing better is the bit that makes you think, no, me second guessing myself isn't really second guessing myself, because the world behind me agrees with this particular aspect I'm second guessing myself about. So I might not really be certain, but I'm pretty sure everyone else around me can't be wrong. And these flat earthers are, and they're the ones predominantly saying that I'm wrong. So therefore, it's much easier to ridicule them and then sit alongside the rest of the world that are ignorant. Doesn't change the fact that they're, as Katz described, having sleepless nights over it. Or as he projected into the third person, you would be having sleepless nights over it. Yeah, you would be, and you are, and we know, and we don't have to be a psychology major to understand that you're talking about you having sleepless nights over the possibility of the world having been a complete fraud and deception for you. Yeah, we faced that back in 2015, though, didn't we? We're long over that, and you're still considering it and worried about it and would rather ridicule us than actually face it. That's the reality of their pain relief that they need when they come here to ridicule us.
Doesn't sound like a lot of relief.
Now it's very short-lived.
That consensus blanket, man. I told you, when they go to sleep at night, the consensus blanket, when they turn on their news, right? There's a little nice, beautiful, magical spinning water ball globe in behind the newscasters and the reporters, and the world is right, right? They can just let me go to sleep while everyone believes it's a ball.
It's a personality trait. I was watching, I think it's called Wednesday. It's like a Netflix series my wife's been watching. I paid attention here and there. And one of the things that really caught my attention was an attitude that she had. Really good actress, actually, this little young Wednesday character. Anyway, that aside, one of the other characters says to her, you just don't care what other people think of you, do you? And she looked at her with a blank stare, as if to say, why are you even asking me this? I don't care. Yeah, very appropriate. And you think, yeah, that's kind of my attitude. The general consensus in any regard doesn't really concern me all that much. You know, I don't care. Everybody likes that, do they? Oh, right. I don't really care if everybody likes it. You know, it's never concerned me. I've just got that particular attitude that I can only experience the world through my own eyes, and beyond the empathy that I might feel for certain people in certain circumstances, I can't physically experience that. That says I do have a certain amount of synesthesia whenever I see someone fall off a skateboard. But there we go. That aside, different story, right? You can only experience the world through one lens. That's your own lens, right? That's the world that presents it to you. So if you can say, how do I experience this world? What can I learn from it? Then you'll have a certain introspection in terms of the world and its nature when it comes to this subject. Now, other people are deeply concerned with what other people think of them. Like, deeply, deeply concerned. And they'll tell you just how concerned they are about what other people think, in the way they communicate how they agree with everybody else, or the thoughts and feelings they divine of other people, even if it's many thousands of years in the past, in the case of Professor Dave recently. They want to be aligned with the masses. Now, I don't know, I'm going to ask for a round robin off the people on G+, if that's the same for them. But personally, I'm not too concerned. If people say, I hate you, you're horrible, in the comments, for example, all right, that's nice. So what? Nice rebuttal is normally my response, because I don't care. You have an argument, because that's what the show's about. Do you think I'm an idiot? Well, I don't care. So what? Water off a duck's back. Anybody else got a comment on this in terms of your general concern for the consensus worldview?
I never cared about it. If it's wrong, it's wrong. I never cared about I never cared about it. It doesn't prove anything. The consensus doesn't mean something is right. You know, so I don't care what they think. You know, so I'd be exactly the same as you. I don't care about they.
I never knew it was the case. That's in Flat Earth, right? There's been one. I can name a few, but one specific horrifying moment of realization, and it wasn't what you'd think. Yes, Flat Earth is one of them, but another one was when I went on Steve McRae, and if not the first question that was asked to their side, the globe believing side, was, do you believe reality is based on consensus? Now, when I heard that question asked, you know, I sort of sat back in my seat smugly thinking, there's no way they're going to answer yes to this. No, it's such a loaded question. Who in their right mind would answer yes to this? And in unison, they all answered yes, without missing a beat, right? Yeah.
Wow.
And it was after the discussion had finished, I remember discussing it with Chris Monk and going, I was absolutely aghast that they answered yes to that. And he was indifferent. He's like, I knew they'd say yes. And I was like, what? And he's like, well, the world is based on consensus reality. That's what our world is based on. Didn't you know that? And I was like, no, I didn't know that. I thought completely the opposite. I had no idea that they would answer yes to that question, and was truly horrified that they answered yes to that question. You know, literally, it took me back. I was stunned cold when they said yes. So I was like, oh my God, we live in a world where people believe that if everybody agrees about the grass being purple, the grass becomes purple. What? Is that really the world we live in?
Did you say that was the first question off the rip?
I think it was the first question asked.
See, but doesn't that prove my point as to what I was saying before? Look how important consensus is. They're about to start a debate with you, I guess. And literally the first question is, does consensus create reality?
Wow. For them, yeah. Yeah. And for a lot of people, amazing. That's the basis, right? So, yeah.
That's sad. That's pathetic.
Yeah, but TV can do that to you in more ways than you'd ever imagine. Have you all seen a movie called Wag the Dog? That's a no from absolutely everyone. Okay, go see if you can find a copy of Wag the Dog. And just watch what happens in terms of the manipulation of the mind's eye of the masses. And if it's on the news and everyone's watched it, then everybody agrees with it. because they've all experienced it in their own way, in their mind, regardless of if it's complete fiction that's been made up or not. So consensus reality is formed in multiple ways, right? You've got the suspension of disbelief aspect that we currently experience with heliocentrism, where you go to the theatre and watch Superman fly around the outside of a globe, and in your mind, you're only suspending disbelief about Superman. Obviously, there's not a Superman from Krypton, it's just a comic. But you don't appreciate there's a second level of suspension of disbelief. You suspend disbelief about the sphere Earth in a vacuum with the gas not filling it, but you just don't realise it. It's just part of your religion. So therefore, when you move forth in general normie society looking up at the sky, your worldview is that world, especially when quote-unquote science tells you that that's what's come from that world that you've experienced as you suspended disbelief. In other words, they condition you to suspend disbelief. Again, we saw this with Andrew, whatever his name was, that guy that we covered, not specifically with him or his guests, but him specifically, when this is Dr. Becky, took him on a little path of fantasy. So he's meandering his way down his path of fantasy about what bending space-time in fourth dimensional geodesics will do. And to the point where he's being ripped apart, or watching his mate being ripped apart and killed, and there's all sorts of death and terror. It's just death cell, that's all it is. Old marketing and advertising technique to get you to buy stuff. In this case, to buy the story of heliocentrism. So you're scared shitless into spaghettification and death in a fantasy world, and then whenever there's a necessity to answer an explanation or essentially a priest's question that they need to get around, they take you back to the fantasy land that you've imagined and explain it within the fantasy land. Now, it used to be the case that back in the day, the priest would be telling you about how it works in heaven and what will be given in forgiveness if you go and do a certain thing with the water in the font. I don't bloody know. But whatever, the comparison's the same when you go to a priest of heliocentrism. They start telling you about how when someone's falling around a spherical world in a sky vacuum with gas pressure not filling it, but they're in a spacesuit to protect their gas pressure, in spite of the ground literally having gas that's not filling the space below them, well, they're falling around in a spherical motion based on an hour that I've assumed from Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion, and the distances assumed from Venus, and the reason he's not flying off with Coriolis effect that the globe also asserts is because of the tether of gravity. Remember that thing that spaghettified you? Well, that's also holding him with like a rope. Yeah? You understand? Yes, I understand, of course. Yeah? We're all being swindled. We're all being manipulated in some way or another into creating a reality through fantasy. That's what the sphere Earth has always done, and it's what all control groups and religions have done to their people, to keep them well and truly under control with the answers that they shouldn't be asking questions about, already tucked up nicely in an explanation that can be given that takes you to La La Land. And in heaven, this is how it would work, and this is what you would get, and this is how your punishment will come. You understand? Go on, right, on your way. Stop asking questions about what the sky is. Got it all figured out. Now look at this picture from a telescope. Happy? Good. Sod off.
And then they get mad at me when I show them the NASA guy whose literal job is to create pictures of the Earth, who says himself, yeah, it is Photoshop, because it has to be. And then they get mad at me. I'm like, I'm not the NASA guy that just told you he just Photoshopped the globe Earth using flat maps. Like that's him. That's NASA. That's the thing that you believe. That's not me. Oh, you're mad because I pointed it out. Okay, copy that.
Yeah, that checks out.
Well,
yeah.
They don't often show that bit of it, actually. So the bit that's constructing... I saw that while it was in process before he gave that quote. Math Powerland was covering that quite extensively and showing that at one point it reached like a bubble Earth, like a really squashed pancake Earth, but sort of with curvy edges. And it had reached a stage where they'd taken all of the LiDAR scans in these strips and put these strip ribbons around, or tried to attempt to make them around a globe Earth, and it failed miserably. So they manipulated it in such a way that they could kind of fashion it onto a sort of ellipsoid, squashed pancake shape. And that was where they were at one stage, putting all, like I say, all these LiDAR maps onto it. But that's what they were alluding to doing to make it seem more legit. And then after that, you got to the Simmons quote where he's talking about having to be photoshopped when he's adding the clouds on and such. But that was much, much later down the line. So as I say, Math Powerland was really extensively covering that because it was right up his alley, right? It's NASA artwork.
Yep. And even though I wasn't always the biggest Math Powerland guy, that main question that he asked was very pertinent. Like, or maybe the statement that he made that you will never have this view of the Earth ever. And once you can deal with that, because I think that's what it is. A lot of people can't deal with that reality. Once you can deal with that it can accept that you will never ever see the Earth that way. I think for at least for me, it got easier, much easier from then.
It was even said that way once in a movie before Math Powerland said it, just in a different context, but it was said in basically the exact same way. So there's a scene in a movie called Interview with the Vampire, and the Brad Pitt character, who's recently become a vampire, is getting on in his whatever centuries old age, and talks about the invention of cinema, and he literally describes, like Math Powerland did, seeing the world through eyes that he couldn't possibly see the world through. And it cuts to an image of him seeing, I think he's describing sunrise, but he cuts to a picture of sunrise coming back from behind the globe Earth in Superman. And it's because of his reference to that I use Superman in that context. Because it was the way that back when I was a kid, when I was watching this, probably came out when I was about, I don't know, 15 or something, maybe even earlier. But I remember in my mind hearing that sentence about the vampire not being able to see that world through those eyes. And it's cemented in my mind. So again, when Math Powerland's like, you'll never see the world in that way. But you do, don't you? Because as I've just described, when you suspend disbelief at the cinema, so one step further into suspension of disbelief from interviewing the vampire to being the guy watching the movie, i.e. Superman, on the screen, you are seeing the globe suspended in a vacuum with the sky vacuum and the gas not filling it, that you are getting to see that. So while you will never personally experience it for real, you can't, it's not real. There is no sky vacuum. There is no globe Earth. You're not going to get that position to see from because it doesn't exist. Math Powerland didn't take it that far, but what he said was you'll never experience the world from this position, i.e. looking back at the Earth from space. We say space is fake and give you the reasons why. Go ahead.
They make sure that they show you it enough now, though, because it's in every commercial, in every movie, in every newspaper, in every newsreel. They make sure that they show you that.
Because it's fantastic. That's why. The heliocentric world is amazing. Tell me it isn't so. The reason we've got so much quality sci-fi from the heliocentric religion is because it's awesome.
Well, I always said when Satan said, hold on, I always said when Satan said I will be like the Most High, he wasn't going to come up with some ragtag system. He came up with the heliocentric model, which is very elegant. If you look at that Neil deGrasse Tyson video that they posted in Master D today, I looked at it real quick.
I hate to agree with you on a religious point, but you are spot on in terms of what the heliocentric model is. It's intricate, beautiful, awe-inspiring, enormous, majestic. It's just got so many great words to describe the heliocentric world. I mean, it's not the world you live in. The Earth's flat. Has to be. And to derive this world of fantasy called the heliocentric globe Earth model, you need a flat Earth to get there. But, it doesn't change the fact that if you didn't know that, and when I didn't know that, I thought I was part of the world Superman flew around. And Star Wars existed in. And Red Dwarf took place in. That was amazing in its own way. To feel like you're part of that amazing, fantastical world.
I think that's why I agree with you on too. John, I agree with you on that because I don't think a lot of them know it. I just think they're caught up in its awe-inspiring system that they don't know. Like if you listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson and that guy that he's talking to, They believe it 100% when they talk about time dilation and everything that goes on. They believe it.
Well, which
Well,
one's?
I hate to. Go on, John.
I was just going to say, which one's easier to believe, that you will be as God someday, or you're in a contained system and there's someone that created it for you? Which one is more fulfilling to the ego?
Go, Ryan.
First.
Well, thanks, Nathan. What I was going to say was, I hate to say it, but globe busters, in a way, what they do is actually detrimental to the globe, more so than basically a lot of what we talk about. Not as a debating tactic, not as an argument, but if you could prove to the majority of the globers that space is fake, I don't think they wouldn't waste their time arguing after that point. There doesn't have to be a globe at that point, if you understand. Space has to be real for them. That's why they keep arguing the Earth is a globe, rotating globe, because space has to be real. If you can show them space is not real, because even us talking about the second law of thermodynamics, none of that is getting through to them. So if it was proven to them or shown to them space is just not real, all these things that we're told about the sky were all false. None of them would bother arguing about geometry or celestial navigation right after that stage. They'd just be, yeah, it's not a globe. But they'll argue all day about celestial navigation and geometry and airplanes and everything else and gravity, as long as space is real, because that's what they need. They need space to be real. Because if space is not real, means none of it is real for them. And that's what they hold on to, I think.
So you're commending their NASA debunking, as in debunking what happens on the stage and set.
Well, I'm not so much. I'm not really commending them, because they're not trying to change things. They don't trust any of them. They're not trying to change things. They're trying to not change things, right? That's why they always come into. They always end up in draws with these ballers and all the rest of it. But what I'm saying is, what they're doing is actually the fastest route to solving the problem. Is showing that space does not exist. But no, I'm not saying they're doing it for that reason or out of intellect or anything else. I'm just saying that is actually the fastest route. Show them that space does not exist. And like conspiracy cats, you show him and prove to him space does not exist. What he thinks the sky is, it's not. It's not that at all. And we don't know what it is. He's not going to try and hold on to the Earth being a globe so hard. He's going to go, oh, well, I don't know what he's going to do. Go into depression maybe.
Yeah, but debunking NASA photos doesn't prove that.
I'll ask a quick question, though. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
It's impossible to have scientific evidence for something that doesn't even have an observed effect.
Well, the Globebusters team seems to think gas fall down, go boom, boom. And that's not a joke.
I knocked you at anti-vibration pads were at the door. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
That's not science.
No, you can't. They can't do experiment. So consequently, there can never be a viable hypothesis, because they can never have an IV that they can manipulate. That will like what can they manipulate? They can't manipulate anything within them fields. There's no IV possible, so it can't have a viable scientific hypothesis from them fields.
There can't be science.
Yeah, and that's why it's not.
Nope.
But it is mislabeled as such, so then it's got another name that should be attached to it.
Yeah, pseudoscience. Where there's been a claim of science with no application of the scientific method, the definition is pseudoscience.
That's got to hurt if you've never heard that before.
Yeah, well, Becky, as a classic example, is a pseudoscientist. as I said earlier, taking a host on a journey through La La Land to spaghettification, to only assert later that you've got a not actual force holding Tom Cruise to the Earth in violation of Coriolis drift. You know, that kind of stuff. That's not science. That's pseudoscience, because she's prefacing all of this with words like theory and saying that it's scientific terminology. Well, no, it isn't. Scientific terminology describes cause and effect reasoning within a hypothesis to go forth to become an experiment to validate or invalidate your scientific prediction. Well, that type of terminology could, I suppose, be called scientific terminology, but I'm not saying it so that I can grease the skids of my Just So story in La La Land about spaghettification to then turn it into a force to hold Tom Cruise around an Earth that he's falling around. You know, I'm not doing it for the same reasons. Or do I need to qualify it as being some scientific terminology to make me sound smart or make my story seem more believable? But that's what pseudoscientists do. That's why they do it. That's why it's got a specific term. People who abuse the terms of science, that's why they get labelled that way. Now, simultaneously, I think people that don't claim science, like, not in modern times, but in times gone by, the astrologers, the people who are documenting the logic of the stars, well, they're not claiming to be scientists, but yet they get called pseudoscience in current voodoo nonsense, where they're crystal balls and predicting your stars in terms of the future. Well, that woo-woo nonsense has been superimposed over somebody tracking the logic of the stars. And that's all that is. But like I say, it gets called a pseudoscience. And even Mystic Mega South probably isn't saying this is science, but you hear it all over the place for shampoo and tyres and whatever else that people want to assert, computer technology, when they're doing maths. People get confused because they're lied to with that trick. So then before long, everybody's saying this is a science when they're talking about calculating things or adding things up or documenting things. You're like, no, it isn't a science. You don't know what science is, but you think you know what science is when the pseudoscientists have got hold of this term to convince you of their bullshit stories.
And then people try to ascribe evil intent to it and say, well, all of these people wouldn't be working together. No conspiracy that
What's
big.
good, bro? When I'm done, there's one unit that I'm doing, the last rework, hopefully the last one for this Wasatch.
That's good to know, Chocolate.
When I'm
I'm
done with
glad
that,
we're getting
I think
informed.
this guy.
Chocolate's telling us what's going on at work off mute. Thank you very much, Chocolate. Really appreciate it.
Go back there. So unit right there, it says C. I know it says C, right? It's not a bus stop unit.
It could mute
Chocolate,
him.
you're off mute.
Nah, I could mute him.
Chocolate, you're off mute.
What?
It's all right.
Oh, this one over here?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was Brent himself.
I've sorted him. That was good fun. Anywho.
Yeah, but that's where like conspiracy cats and all his fears come from, right? Just to tie it back to what we were saying earlier, is now, you know, there's a part of us that wants to tie intent to everything. So it has to be a massive conspiracy now that all these pseudosciences were mislabeled science.
Gentlemen.
Red herring. Total red herring. So when your argument's been shown to be incorrect or void in terms of globe Earth, sphere edge assertions or our assertions or heliocentric orbital assertions, anything that we've debunked here, right? When you're shown to be... is that Chocolate again? Go on, Chocolate. I think he's pocket unmuting. Let's just do him once more. Oh no, I can't mute him. Can't unmute someone else. Oh, he's back on mute. Okay. What were we talking about, John? Sorry, I got completely distracted.
The red herring of saying, well, all these people would have to be in on it.
Right.
It's a huge
exactly.
conspiracy.
Yeah.
What's up, bro?
Who cares? Doesn't make any difference. If your argument's void, does it matter if someone else was in on it? If there's a conspiracy attached? Or if it was one man ruling the world? Doesn't make any difference. What matters is the argument's wrong. We can show how. Does it matter how many people are in on it? You can ponder those things after the fact, if you choose to. But asking me about them? No. I'm showing you out the horizon's not Earth curve. Well, is there 100 million people lying about Earth curve? I don't know. It's not Earth curve, though.
Well, it is true that there is a large contingency of people who are promoting things as science that aren't science. That is a fact. That's not a conspiracy. That's actually happening. And as opposed to a large contingency of people promoting that the Earth is a globe and they're all lying, no, they just don't know any better, most of them. And some of them are just pure stupid. But when it comes to this topic, it's not a conspiracy theory that there's lots of people out there making claims of things as being science when it's not. That is happening all the time. There's lots of false scientists out there, pseudoscientists. There's no end of them. There's a lot more of them than there is real scientists, because to become a real scientist, to do real science, is difficult. It's hard. You have to learn a lot of stuff. You can't just be making it up as you go along, like Dr. Becky.
Well, their pseudoscience is really difficult. If you want to do tensor calculus, that's not easy.
Yeah, but it's all made up. It's not necessary, if you understand what I mean. Like, if you become a biologist or a chemist or something, there's a lot of things you have to know. Like, you can't not know them and be a chemist or a biologist. You can't not know these things. They're important. They're intricate and intricate to the whole being a chemist or a biologist. You have to know these things. Yeah. Integral. Yeah, you can't get these things wrong, but you can get stuff wrong all day about the nature of the sky if you're making it up. It doesn't matter. You know, not everything's right and everything's wrong at that point if you're just making things up mathematically, like Dr. Becky or Albert Einstein.
Or the physicist that Wakey Wakey interviewed, when she just said, well, if we got it wrong, we'll just change the model.
Exactly. You can't do that with chemistry or biology. You can't just change the model. You can't do that if you're a surgeon. You know what I mean? I cut the wrong place. What about it? I just cut somewhere else. Can't do that. I'm not saying a surgeon is a scientist, but a surgeon has to learn about biology. I mean, they have no choice. So, someone who's a chemist like Adam can't just, mix the wrong things together. It don't matter what happens. We just change the model. It can't. It could cause an explosion.
Wow.
Well, they're bound by mathematical rules. So there is some problems for them, like with the geometric horizon. That's a problem because there are mathematical rules that they assert.
Right. And those mathematical rules have been violated under the guise of it being science to begin with. So we were told continually about the science for Earth curve and all of the scientists and etc., etc., etc. The whole body of science proves we're on a sphere, etc. Well, no, there wasn't any science, there was maths, and the maths had rules, and we've shown how the rules within their maths, which isn't physics, have been violated under the guise of basically pseudoscience. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Might have to nip out in the middle of this pre-show, depending on how well it goes. So if it's going really swimmingly and you're all chatting and I suddenly disappear, don't worry.
Shouldn't have warned us.
Yeah, but at some point
No.
someone will say, "Oh, Nathan, can you put this up?" And I'll be like, there'll be no response because I've nipped out to drop a parcel off. One of my amps blew up. Well, not blew up, just started going crackly, which is annoying. So I've delayed it a week. And this week I'm like, I'll just get it in the post first thing on Monday. Hopefully you can turn it around in less than a week. Unlikely. In the meantime, my rubber corners have come. They buy Noctua fans and they're brown and beige. But if you spend more, they give you less accessories, the exact same fan, but in black for more money. But they don't come in black because they come in black with multicoloured, highly fluorescent corners on them. So you're like, I want the good fan, but murdered out. I don't want it with bright blue or bright yellow or bright bloody brown. No thanks. So then after spending more on a fan that comes with less accessories, just so it can be black, you then have to spend an extra tenner to get black corners for it separately. Total rip-off. But finally, I'm going to stick some black corners on, and the computer is worthy of having a video made about it after 4 months. So I'll be happy with it aesthetically as well as it not like breaking, which it was okay about a month ago. But yeah, I want it to look cool now, so I'm going to put these black corners on my fans once the show's done, and send my amp off.
That is so interesting. I just got to say.
Yeah, man. Noctua's marketing. If you've got nothing exciting to market with, just make your colour poo brown and beige. And then everyone's going to look at them and go, why have you got them? Well, because they're the best, they're really good. Yeah, but they're brown. Yeah, I know. As if they're just black and good. No one will ever notice them or mention them or talk about them in any way, shape or form. And they'll never stand out in reviews like all the other fans that exist on the market. What's exciting about a fan? Well, basically nothing. So let's make it poo brown and beige.
Can't help but not talk about it when it looks like a turd.
That must have been their marketing philosophy. Look at all these these black fans. None of them stand out. None of them are interesting. We're going out of our way to spend loads of money to be different. Let's make it brown. Let's make it a colour literally no computer is.
Well, that's interesting. As marketing goes, I've seen something about the scented toilet paper. Like they were trying to come up with a marketing ploy for scented toilet paper, and they finally ended up going with toilet paper scented now.
As soon as you've used it, it's scented. Why waste your money?
Scented now.
I don't know these things, Adam. I'm just saying marketing's weird.
I had to look up them fans eventually. They remind me of like Tupperware from the 70s and 80s, Nathan.
What does?
Colour choice.
What does?
Your fans. These, I've just looked them up. I've heard you talk about them for weeks, but I've bothered to. They are shocking colour, aren't they?
Noctuas are shocking, but you can get them in black if you want to pay more and get less accessories and multicoloured corners. Yeah, do it in brown. Why not?
So you got to pay extra for them to be like everything else.
Right, it was a bit like that in hi-fi, right? So if you buy a really cheap hi-fi, it's got no buttons and flashing lights. It's really basic. And then if you buy one that's a little bit dearer, it's got lots of flashing lights on it, right? But then if you buy one that's in the mid-range, it's got no flashing lights on it. Flashing lights, bad, evil. And then as you go up to the higher end, still no flashing lights, bad, evil. But then when you get up to the super high end, lots of flashing lights. Why? Well, because people like flashing lights. That's why.
Yeah, like I said, marketing is just weird. Like if you take they done I don't know, I don't want to call it a test, but they had a bunch of wine tasters, like the best in the world. And what they done was they got some of the best wines from around the world and dumped them out. of their bottles and put cheap wine in to those bottles and let those taste testers talk about the wines that were in those bottles. And because they were allowed to see the bottles, it affected what they thought they were tasting.
Yeah, because people always want to believe, that's like the hi-fi with all the lights on it. They want to believe that they're in a higher bracket, that they've got the best. Someone else has a kind of a much cheaper version of them, of what they have. So they want to believe that they've got the best. It's like a Lamborghini is like a really expensive sports car. But if you don't have this year's one and you have one from 15 years ago, it's not, who cares? You know what I mean?
No.
So,
Hold on. Just while you've got that example, just because I've got the example, which is actually true. So in the realm of Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Bugattis and things, right? They have a term for a particular type of Ferrari or Lamborghini, which is a poverty spec Lamborghini. Now, what that means is you've gone to the dealer, and on the dealer forecourt, the dealer has bought one with 0 options, so he can sell it for a keen price. And you've seen it for a keen price, and you've bought it for the keen price of $250,000. Keen? What? Anyway, but that's a poverty spec Ferrari. Well, what do you mean? Well, because a good spec Ferrari would have cost $400,000 and would have had the carbon fibre and the sports package and the hydropneumatic suspension. And you haven't got any of that on this poverty spec Ferrari. Right? That's what you're saying, isn't it, Brian?
well, yeah, I mean, if I take a Lamborghini or Ferrari as an example, and even if you just don't have the latest model, if you have a Ferrari or a Lamborghini and it's 10 to 15 years old, then it kind of like, well, you know what I mean? It's like, it's no big deal. You're trying to be like one of the people who have a 2022 model at that point. And that's why something like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, these kind of cars are only for people who can afford to update them. You know what I mean? Every 2 or 3 years. Because if you can't afford to update your Lamborghini, then you have no business having one. So it's that kind of a thing where an old Lamborghini, unless it's really old, like a Countach from the 80s, yeah, that's worth money because of what it is, because it has historical value. But if your Lamborghini is from 2004, nobody really cares. Do you know what I mean? You're just trying to be something you're not.
I saw one. So the dealer around the corner from me, it's now houses. It was ripped down a few years ago. But when it was a car dealer, he used to have unusual cars. And I went in there and he had a Lamborghini Murcielago. And it was in black. It looked wicked. So I'd never been into the dealership before, but I went in and I was like, what's this? And he's like, it's a Lamborghini Murcielago. And I was like, can I have a look around it? And he's like, yeah. He says, here's the keys. Have a look. Knock yourself out. So I was like, wicked. So I had a look around this Lamborghini. And he popped the back, whatever you'd call it, bonnet, we'd call it, but I don't know what you'd call it, lifted up to show the engine. And I peered inside, and at first glance, you're like, there's a lot of carbon fibre and stuff. And I said it to him, I was like, wow, there's a lot of carbon fibre. Yeah, it's all fake. I was like, what? And he grabbed a piece of it, which was paper thin, and just sort of rattled it. And when he did, I looked at what it was rattling against, and it was held on with a zip tie. And as I glanced around, there's all these zip ties and shit like that, all holding these pieces of, looks like bodywork but isn't, onto this engine bay. Beautification panels, they call them in Aston Martin lingo. So I was like, has this been in a crash or something? Because it had all this stuff adjusted on it. It's like, nope, that's how they come from the factory. I said, you kidding me? It's like, yep, they're held together with zip ties and dreams. And I'll never forget him saying it. I looked at it and I was like, God, this is garbage. He's like, yep.
Sounds like the lunar model.
It goes back to consensus opinion. I was listening in the car, you were talking about that earlier, and using the wine analogy. See, people don't want to be wrong in public, and that's why consensus is so powerful. Even if you'll disagree, you'll amend your viewpoint if the consensus is, no, it is good wine. Not because it is, because you don't want to be different to the crowd. Same thing there. Realistically, look, that's a piece of crap, isn't it, that car? But nobody would ever say that other than a dealer to somebody secretly. Nobody's in the pub going, they're crap, and standing by that. Because the consensus would, you would be challenged straight away. And that's depowering for any individual, isn't it? If the group challenges what they say.
And that's why we have heliocentrism.
I remember, sorry, Adam. Well, Adam.
No, I'm just agreeing with John. Yeah, I'm done by.
Okay, thanks. I remember my father being in Spain or Portugal, and they were getting wine, or himself, my mother, is years back, on holiday, and they were advised to buy the local wine because the local wine was the best wine, and it was like something like 4, whatever it was in probably euros a bottle, and it was really, really good wine. But there was other wines there for $20 a bottle and $30 a bottle. But the €4 wine was actually a better quality wine. But people were buying the 20 and 30 euro bottle simply because they wanted to be buying bottles that were 20 and 30 euros worth. They didn't want to be seen with the cheaper bottle. But the locals knew the difference between what was the best wine and what was the worst wine. All the locals, whether they were wealthy or not, like the restaurant owners or whatever, they were drinking the local wine. And it wasn't just to support the local, it's because the local was the best wine. But people wouldn't drink it. People were like I remember when the shops like Aldi and Lidl first came to Ireland, I can't speak about anywhere else, but they had their prices so low that people wouldn't go in there because they were afraid people would see them going into the cheap shop at the time. So that kind of way that, even though, so it made no difference because what they had to do to get custom was raise their prices. When they raised the prices, people started buying the exact same things they could have bought for half that price. Like
that's what
the year
happened
before.
to. That's what happened to. I think it was Jack Daniels. When they first come out, they were as cheap as the cheap liquors, the $2 fifths kind of liquors. So they knew they had a good product, but it wasn't selling. So they got some financial marketers to come in and look, and their suggestion was to raise the price of it by 10. So instead of charging $2 a fifth, charge 20. And then they started flying off the shelves. Tell me how that makes sense.
Yeah. I remember in LA, when I first went there a couple of years ago, I was looking at what cars you could hire, because I was looking to hire maybe an older car, one of the more American cars, the older American cars or something like that. But you could hire Lambos, Lamborghinis, Ferraris and stuff like that, but they're all kind of older ones. You know what I mean? So you could hire a Lamborghini, and it wouldn't look old, but everyone knows that that's an old model. And you go around LA in a Lamborghini like a dope that everyone knows is hired. Like, why would you do it? But the point is that it wasn't. The point is that it was for people to think or believe that they were going around in a real Lamborghini, when really what they're going around in is an old, out of date model. That's what they were going around in.
I don't know if you've got the right idea there, Brian. I've done track days and driven Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and there was no one there to see me. And it wasn't so that I could be seen in a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. It was so I could drive a Lamborghini or a Ferrari to see what it was like, brazzing it around a track. Same when I rented a car in the States, mainly through cost reasons. But when we had that option, I was in wherever I was in with my brother, and we went to rent a car, and there was a choice of the Corvette or the Ferrari. And we're like, can we afford the Ferrari? Not because we wanted people to see us in a Ferrari, although, yeah, there is an aspect of that to a certain extent, yes, because people are going to see you in an open-top car. They were both open-top cars. But it was more the fact that we can drive along the coast in a Ferrari. that was the mentality. Not, people will see us and think we're cool, or know that we're in the latest model, which it might not have been.
I know, I understand that. I'm not totally putting down somebody doing that. I get that someone wants that experience. That's okay. But the fact that you could rent them immediately cheapened them to me. So I could just rent one Can I? And then bring it back and someone else rents it. It's just like there's nothing exclusive about that Ferrari or that Lamborghini or whatever, because I can just rent it like anyone else. Whereas
woman.
when you have to buy the new model, that's exclusive, if you understand.
Got a strange mentality, Brian. It's like, it's not a lover. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I have no hassle renting the car. It doesn't have to be anything brilliant. It just has to be what I need it to be. But I'm not going to spend a lot of extra money just to rent a Lamborghini that's 10 years old. I'm just not going to do that. I'll drive the newest model, but I'm not going to drive something 10 or 15 years old if it's a Lamborghini. A Rolls Royce, absolutely I will. But not a Lamborghini, not a Ferrari. They have to be up to date.
Okay, I've got it down. I've written it down. Not an older model. Okay, thank you.
That's ruined his bloody birthday treat we've got planned for him, hasn't it?
But as far as consensus goes, 99% of the people that view that Lambo aren't going to know what model it is. If that's what's worried you. Like, I couldn't look at a Lamborghini and tell you what model it is.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
all
care
you know
what model. Give me any model. I'll take anything right now.
Most people would see a Lamborghini, and do you know what their question would be? Average Joe's question. Is that a Ferrari?
Yeah, I know.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but my point is that I know it's not the 2022 model. So I know that I'm only mugging myself off, trying to drive around in a Lambo that is basically an old Lambo. That anyone who also knows that it's not the 2022 model will see me and know that I am not the real deal. So I don't mind not being in the 2022.
I'm sorry, Brian, but this is something I fundamentally disagree with, right? If I was driving an LP600 in black, manual, then as far as I am concerned, I have got the biggest penis of everybody around me. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I think you're missing the point. Neil, you're not listening at all, right? If it's a Rolls Royce, if it's a Rolls Royce, absolutely I'll drive older models. I'd buy and own an older model, absolutely. But when it comes to a Lamborghini, it has to be the 2022 version.
Oh,
Otherwise,
I wouldn't be
I'm only mugging
seen
myself
dead
off.
driving a Rolls Royce. I'd want to be driven. You'd be driving it. It's some peasant.
Well, no, not the older ones. If you're going to be driven, it would have to. If you're going to be driven around, it would have to be either a classic model or a new model. But if it's not one of those, if it's like from the 90s or something, then you're going to be driving it.
See, Bri, I'd take that. See, what Nathan said there, you see. You're driving. There's nobody in the back of a Rolls Royce. People just think you're a chauffeur. If you're in a roller, you've got to be in the back. There's no pride in the front.
No, not if it's an older
That is
model.
true.
It's obvious. Not if it's an older
Good
model.
point.
Nobody is getting chauffeured. Anyone who has a chauffeur are not going around in a 1990s Rolls Royce. They might be going around in a 1975 Rolls Royce, Silver Shadow. Or they might be going around in a 2022 or 2021 Rolls Royce. But they're not going around in a 1996 Rolls Royce. There's no chauffeurs driving them.
Just a peasant.
What, John?
This is the hot topic. What cars would people be driving if there were certain ways? I mean, this is right on the edge of.
Yeah. Well, it was. There was a point to it with consensus reality. You know, the way people perceive things about certain aspects of reality, and one of the reasons that a lot of people don't want to challenge heliocentrism is because it is against that consensus that makes statements like these hard to argue with.
This is what you talk about when nobody comes in to challenge. Really, you're smart because they can't challenge it. But what are you going to do?
Well, if you want something to talk about that's more on topic, I can bring up something. But if you're happy talking about cars, we'll talk about cars.
What do
I'll
you
leave it up
got,
to you,
Brian?
Nathan. Well, I'll leave Nathan decide, because Nathan likes cars. And I like talking about cars. I like cars. I don't like manuals. Don't have anything to do with them.
I'm putting black corners on my fans.
You don't like manuals?
No, I burn
What?
every manual. I don't
That's
care
not
if it's a brand
driving then,
new.
is it?
Huh?
It's not driving if you've got a disabled vehicle.
Not my God.
Just ignore Brian. He's no longer got an opinion on this subject.
That's ridiculous.
No way, a manual. If you give me a 2022 Ferrari manual, like I won't even sit into the driver's seat. Literally, I
Right,
won't.
number
have nothing to do
one,
with it.
there is no 2022 Ferrari manual. No such animal exists, and they haven't existed since about 2011.
Yeah, that's right. Because Ferrari and Lamborghini know that manuals are a joke.
That's not true. They know that marketing means that year on year, they must show incremental improvements in 0 to 60 times, top speed times, all of these things. So in order to achieve that, they have been forced down a line of double clutch transmissions to achieve the ever incrementally better performance times. In terms of what people actually want and would experience a better drive with, there is no exception. A manual's a better experience, but it isn't going to ever be as fast as a double clutch gearbox. So on paper, people go, oh, well, I want the fastest one. Which one's better? Oh, look, the Porsche isn't as fast as the Ferrari. Well, they don't go, oh, but the Porsche's a manual. They go, the Ferrari's faster. Yeah, but if you drove the two, which one would you have more fun in? Probably the manual Porsche. Well, it would be the manual Porsche, I know. It's just, you're not going to have as much fun in a automatic Ferrari because they're not as much fun.
Speak for yourself.
That was the only thing I wanted because I saved up to get me Porsche, a Carrera Cayenne, but they were all diesel automatics, and I was like, I'm not saving all this up and driving an automatic. I'm not having an automatic car. Just no fun.
Diesel automatic Porsches.
Oh, I got a special edition 3.2 litre petrol manual, mate. Much more fun to drive.
Listen, you'll have to speak for yourselves because driving a manual or a petrol, right, majority of the time petrol, but definitely driving a manual is an absolutely horrendous experience.
What?
You put it into D, you press on the accelerator, you sit back. That's what you do.
Okay.
You don't put it into first and then clutch it and then back into second. Then your clutch starts burning out and you have a pain in your arm.
Both of my Retmobiles, right? One was not available with a manual. I could only have it with a double clutch gearbox. The other, the one it replaced, was a manual. And I did 150,000 miles all over Europe, all over England, all over Ireland, everywhere in that car. And did it matter that it was a manual? No, it was a right laugh. It was great. What are you talking about? 150,000 miles in and out of traffic, up and down on the clutch a million times. It didn't matter. It was ace.
For me, driving that car would be like having to put fiberglass wool into attics all day long. It would be an absolute nightmare. I would absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be able to handle it. That'd be that. Just to put me in a hospital. I don't care. I'm not having that to do it. I will not drive a manual. I will not. I even did my driving test to make sure I got my full license in automatic to make sure that I legally can't even drive a manual. I won't have anything to do with it. Never.
What? You haven't even passed You've not passed your driving test.
Listen, I tell you.
You're not fit to be
Show
on the
me
road.
Rolls Royces. Show me people who drove Rolls Royces who go around with big manual Rolls Royces. Who buys a manual Rolls Royce? The only Rolls Royce that matters is the automatic one. The only Mercedes that matters is the automatic one. Any car that is not an automatic and doesn't have an automatic model or an automatic version, for me, doesn't exist. They just don't exist for me. They're not on my radar.
As far as manual or automatic, who cares what your chauffeur is doing to make it go? Like,
oh no, it matters to me. My chauffeur has to be. If I have a chauffeur, he or she is driving an automatic. I don't want to know.
What about Tiptronic?
No, that's Tiptronic is like it's nearly automatic. No, it's not automatic.
No, because you got control. I used to love my FPO.
It's not automatic.
Just bosh, dropping it down. It's half the fun. It's dropping it down against what the car would like to do, because you know better how to get around that corner faster, no matter what. Yeah, that's the fun.
Nah. Just nah. Never.
I don't understand it either,
It's going to
Adam.
make me vomit.
See, You're traveling on a country road and you're in 5th of 6th, right? And then you look down the road and you see a hairpin and you go, I'm going to need 2nd for that. So as you get close to it, you slam on the anchors and you block change from 5th to 2nd as you're edging onto the apex. So you're off the clutch just as you need the traction back. You can't do any of that in an automatic.
No. All that fun and skill. There's the fun.
Yeah, but you know what you can do? You can just take a foot off the accelerator, tip on the brake, bring the acceleration down, and go around the hairpin, nice and handy, then back onto the accelerator, and back on, off you go.
Driving is amazing.
The other day, the roads were greasy, right? The roads.
Movement of the gearbox. What?
I was just about to say the other day the roads were greasy. This is going to get me a load of shtick, I'm sure. But I know the roads really well around me, and I've lived here for many years. And one of the roundabouts is quite good because you can get the rear end of a rear-wheel drive car out quite easily if it's greasy. But you've got to, you've got to know you're going to do it. So with the kids in the car, I turned off the traction control. And hey, kids, watch this. Just give it a little bit of opposite lock with the back end going. And they're like, woohoo! We came off at the right turning and all was well. Now, that sort of nonsense is the reason they exist. Because when my wife first met me here for the first time, she didn't know where she was going. She got a bit lost. And she came nailing down the street quite quickly and saw me waiting for her at the corner. And she slammed on the anchors in her TT and power slid, did a 4-wheel power slide in the same sort of greasy conditions into the car park. And she went, woohoo! When she got out of the car. And I was like, I'm going to marry that woman. That was amazing. She just did a 4-wheel power slide into the car park. I'm going to marry her. So if she hadn't have done that and I wasn't so excited about telling the story, I'd have no kids. So while people might, you did what? You got the back end of your car out with the kids in? Yeah, I did, yeah. Not in any dangerous way. Don't get too excited about it. Not like my wife did when I met her. But my point is that sort of thing gets people's heart racing. And in an auto, you can't do any of that. It just seems like there's no fun involved in the driving experience if you can't do any of that sort of new stupid shit. But there we go.
Well, I just, for me...
In an automatic, I could do all that while eating a sandwich.
Exactly. You can drink your coffee without being worried about all that nonsense.
Exactly.
Changing the gears. Yeah. You don't have, you can keep it. You're not so distracted. You can keep your eye on the road. Everything's fine. I mean, if you like changing your gearbox and your clutch every 2 or 3 years, then that's on you. If you want to have a pain in your chest and your shoulder from changing the gears and your leg is cramping up from all this pushing to the clutch, forget all that. You just want your foot to go from accelerator to brake, from brake to accelerator. No bother.
Yeah, well, okay. I'll give you the exception to the rule then, where there's no clutch involved. So when I was driving vans for Tesco, they had rear-wheel drive, semi-automatic gearboxes. That is to say that they're a manual with a normal clutch, but there isn't a clutch. So you can select the gears up and down, or you can stick it in D. But when you do, you've still got to manage the clutch with brake and accelerator because you can feel it biting like on a normal manual. So it means that to a certain extent, you can drop the gears down. It feels like it's engaging a clutch, so you have got a certain amount of control over it. And I found those without a clutch to be almost as much fun as a manual because you could exercise a certain amount of control over them. In other words, get the back end out in the wet. Man, I got so much trouble driving those vans.
Well, now, hold on a sec.
Go on.
Do race car drivers drive manuals or automatics?
Automatics, they're faster.
So NASCAR, Formula One are automatics now?
All automatic, yeah. Some of them are robotized manuals, but that's basically automatic. Yeah, autos are faster. If you want to win races, you get an auto. So the car that I had the least love for was the most expensive Repmobile, which had the most sophisticated, supercharged, big engine with a double clutch gearbox. And was it fast? Absolutely. Did it go through gears quickly? Oh, yes, definitely. Did it do 60 in 3 seconds? Oh, yes. And believe me, I scared the shit out of enough people as passengers with it. But was it any fun? No. And I knew it the instant I drove it. The moment they dropped it off and I got behind the wheel of it and drove it somewhere, I drove across Birmingham instantly. The first thing I did. I was like, this isn't much fun. There's not a lot going on. I just sort of sat here. And yeah, if I wanted to on this dual carriageway, I could do 150 miles an hour and still brake in time for the roundabout, because it had massive brakes and a massive engine and a supercharger and a double clutch gearbox. So I could get to 150 before the end of the dual carriageway. But did it actually induce any fun? Was it as much fun as trying to get up to 70 in a manual that's underpowered? I would wager that trying to get up to 70 on the same dual carriageway in an underpowered manual, really rinsing it right up to the red line, trying to squeeze every ounce of that little shit engine, that's much more fun. Like 100 times more fun.
Yeah, but,
NASCAR uses manual. They don't use automatic. I just checked.
yeah, but go back to
More
the
fun in
70s.
NASCAR then. Sorry, Bry.
I want Adam to agree with me.
You go, Adam.
I totally like. I've just bought my lad. He's finally passed his theory test as well. Well done, Leo. Bought my lad a little Fiat 500, right? And I've got a RCZ, and I bought that because I got bored of going around corners in the Porsche and nothing happening. And unless you go on a track, you can't get any fun out of it. So I got this little RCZ, and it's more fun than the Porsche, and you really can go around the islands fast, but it still sticks like shit. And I got out in the Fiat 500, and you're revving like 1.0, and it's the back end will move, yeah, and you can just have fun driving, actually moving the car on the road instead of it just going in the direction you point it, and everything's control fit. Infinite more fun in a little crap car, like you say. It's fun even because it's so poor performance. It's fun getting it up to 40 on a dual carriageway. Because to keep up with the other cars, you've really got to work the gears and rev it high. Great, much better.
Well, what about this? Go back to the 70s and 80s and look at some of the movies from Hollywood. And you take someone like Dirty Harry, who's getting into a car and he's turning off out onto the road, right? He's in a left-hand drive car. And what does he do? Does he put it into first gear? Does he fuck? He puts it into D and just rolls on out of there, right? When I see people putting it into first, I know that's a crap movie.
Was that Right Turn, Clyde?
No, but there you go. Take about Right Turn, Clyde, or some of those big trucks that have manuals. Now, some of them do what they call stick shift, obviously, in the US. But the big manual trucks, the big 4x4s and all that, take them. They're not going to be the same if they don't have a manual option. It's just like you need to have that, or sorry, an automatic option. You need to have that automatic option. You need to have that big automatic. You know, those big American cars with the big huge engines, or the big German cars with big automatics, big deep sounds out of them. That's what you want. I remember when the first time I saw for real one of the American cop cars, one of the LAPD cars, some years ago when I was in Los Angeles. The first time I saw one just at the airport, it was this big, huge Crown Vic. I think they're one of my favorite cars of all time. And you just hear this going past you. Just like, yeah, that's what you want. Into D, big sound, you know what I mean? Sitting back, big power. None of this changing into first and second nonsense.
Right, you see, that D is not for drive, it's for disabled, if you ask me. It's just...
or you could say darkly cool.
I tell you what is interesting. I said my lad's doing this test, and there's no way in the world I'd have let him take the automatic. But one of the ladies at work, she don't want her son to take anything but the automatic. There's no need to take the manual. It's like, you're going to learn something. Surely you learn. That's why I'm surprised you did it. And you'd learn it to the proper standard, and then you can get lazy. But like, what happens if the only car available is a manual? What are you going to do?
Get the bus. I'm not driving. I drove manual cars because Ireland was terrible for automatics. It was very hard to get automatics years and years ago. Everything was manual, and I drove them. And all I remember my whole life, I remember I used to talk to my father when I was younger, and he used to tell me about the automatic gearboxes, and now all the American cars had automatic gearboxes. And I used to love when I'd see someone changing the gearbox to automatic. And anytime, the odd time when I would come across a car that was automatic, I'd be looking in the window at it. Like, you know, just loved automatics. None of this changing gears. So even when I did start driving and had to change gears, I hated it. So the first chance I got to not ever change gears again, I took it. And I'm never going back. I'd rather cycle a bike. And I like cycling.
That's sad. Kind of a first world problem at that point, isn't it?
Well, John, let's just take something like a Lincoln Continental, right? I can't speak today. Lincoln Continental. Put a manual gearbox in that. See if that's going to be the same.
Oh, it was great. I had one. It was amazing.
You have a manual Lincoln?
Well, the gear shifter, it wasn't one that, sit in the floor. It was on the steering column. But yeah.
I didn't think Lincoln Continentals came in manual. Just use that as
it might not have been
example. You ever heard in 1960s and 1950s movies when they'd say 3 on the tree or 4 on the floor? That's how you describe where the mechanism for changing gear is. 4 on the floor, H-shaped manual gearbox. 3 on the tree, like you see when they go clunk, clunk, clunk through 1, 2, 3.
Well, one thing is for certain, as a group, we will never be going on a road trip because we'll have to share the driving, and I won't be driving a manual. So that's the end of that. You can forget your road trip. I won't be going. You're on your own.
It's off.
I'd like to see somebody try to tie this conversation back to heliocentrism now.
Well, I would say that you're all scared of automatics. Not all obviously Chocolate isn't. I don't know about Neil. He'll drive at me, he said.
See, it's just a slow slide, this automatics, on the way to Minority Report. Google cars. It's all just you not controlling it. And I don't like that. If I'm in, like, you get these new cars now, you hire them, and I'm driving in Italy, yeah, and this car, and it moves. It moves my car on the frick. I'm driving, not you car, and it's moved me because it thinks I've not noticed there's a white line. You can see, you know what I mean? That I hate. I'm not looking forward to it.
I don't know. First time I'm going to disagree with Adam on cars. So on that Audi, it had radar, which meant you had cruise control that would accelerate and slow you down and stuff, right? But what it also did was, and it only happened once, but someone pulled out on me, and it got to the brakes before I did, and stopped me hitting the back of somebody who pulled out right in front of me. I had the wife in the car, and I was like, I didn't hit those brakes. It hit them for me before I could get to them because I didn't see him. 1 minute you're driving along at 70 miles an hour, next minute there's a car pulling out at you at 50, and when it's in front of you, you're going to go in the back of it. But for the fact that a computer said no, bang, on went the brakes.
Says no, but that's my issue.
Thank you, Kit.
I was grateful for it. Let's put it that way, Adam.
Yeah, you're going to be, and yes, but like my point is the road to the Minority Report. We've already seen taxiless, driverless taxis, all these sorts of things. There's going to be a point that car can be switched off out of your control, and it takes you to the police station. That's where it's headed. That's why I don't like it.
And then
you're going to get busted out.
Hold on. And when you're talking about a Minority Report, when does disagreeing with consensus become criminal?
There you go.
So are you willing to give up freedom for protection?
Probably in the next year or two.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
In Canada, you can already go to jail for mispronouncing someone.
That is where it's going.
Is it worth giving up the control you have over your own life, your own decisions, to be safe?
Give up your freedoms for more safety.
Would you stop? Automatic gearboxes are not leading to cars driving you to the police station. I mean, that's not the fault of automatic cars.
It's this it's a gateway drug to it. That's what it is.
Why do you think Adam's wrong? Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Why do you think that's wrong?
Because it doesn't matter. Because at that point, the manual gearbox is a gateway to it, and the character is the gateway to it before the car. You know, it's a regress.
there's the
How is having
consensus opinion
control?
that not having that control, having more things done for you is more advanced. That's the consensus opinion that I
Okay.
disagree with.
Recently,
Well,
in the Far East, I can't remember where, a Tesla went out of control and ran over a load of people because the driver could not control the car. Now, I watched this on Lewis Rossman, and he was saying, surely on the car, like any other lawnmower or jet ski or whatever, there'd be a kill switch, a button that you can press that just disables everything. If you're hurtling down the road at 90 miles an hour in a 30 zone and you can't stop the car, what would you do in a manual? Well, even if the clutch had failed, I could wrench the gears out of gear very easily on a manual. And yeah, you wouldn't immediately stop accelerating if your brakes failed, but you wouldn't be accelerating more. You'd stop accelerating, sorry, if I pulled the car out of gear, which is
On
dead easy.
screen
There we
now.
go. Somebody's got it on. Thank
Yeah.
you, whoever's presented this. So this is a Tesla. It pulls over. Next thing you know how fast Teslas are. Incredibly. Doesn't take long. This next one, there you go, probably doing about 80 miles an hour.
Bonkers, this, isn't it?
Absolutely nuts. What can the person do? Absolutely nothing. Zooming through lights, zooming through narrow roads, and at that point, bang, straight into somebody. And then smashes into a building.
How about the new cars now? The new cars don't have a handle for the door on the inside. It's a button.
Am I
And that's
supposed
the
to feel automatic guilt?
Yeah.
Automatic gearbox guilt?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
there's no
Brian, this
building
is all your
automatic
fault,
nonsense.
not just automatic gearbox. You, personally.
I have
All you
zero
got to
guilt
do,
about it.
Brian, there is just dip your clutch.
That was a series of steps past automatic, accepting that automatic is just the best thing. Let's stick with that. Well, why do we need the driver to make decisions? Obviously, because that's the step in the next, in the progressive direction you would be heading. If you didn't accept some people want to have control of their own lives.
Well, let me ask you this. Adam, Nathan, and John. Do ye and have ye ever used cruise control?
Hate it.
Yeah, all the time.
You spend longer, unless you're on a dead road. Yeah, it's the most frustrating thing. You're not in control. You're having to keep an eye on the car. No, I hate it. No, and this is the point. This is that's terrifying to me. To be in something like that, and you're not in control, and things can go wrong, but to have the potential that things can be taken out of your control electronically is the thing that I just don't like. All these new cars.
But come on, an automatic gearbox is not a Tesla. Those automatic gearboxes going back, I don't know how many decades. I think the first car was an automatic. I think.
But the same argument you're using for having just automatic transmissions is the same argument that led to a Tesla driving itself.
Well, a Tesla has an automatic because it doesn't have gears, because it's an electric. So the problem you have is with an electric car.
No, we're talking about control now and taking control away from the driver.
Yeah, lads, nothing's going to stop me not driving. Nothing's going to stop me driving automatics. That's what I drive. That's what I'll continue to drive. And look, with zero guilt. You can show me all the videos of people in Teslas going 80 miles an hour and they're trying to press things and nothing's happening. I won't be in one of those.
The sad thing is I prefer an automatic. But as far as the choice, as far as the choice to have the manuals, I think it needs to stay. I think having the choice is important.
You know what that sounded like to me, John? Sounded like somebody going around giving out about all these Asians and then saying, but I really like Asian girls. That's what it sounded like to me.
No.
Yeah, and admittance.
No, that's
But Asian girls are really great. I don't like them Asians, except for them Asian girls.
right. But like you said, there's a big jump from driving a Tesla, something that you don't have any control of, to taking away an aspect of control over the vehicle. But I still think it should be up to the individual to choose.
No, all jokes aside, I don't like this thing where the car takes over. I'm not into all that nonsense. That's why, Adam, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I could say 2 or 3 years ago, I was able to switch it off in a hire car. Yeah. The last time, no, it's there, and you can go to disable. I press disable, and it just put it back on. I was not allowed full control of that car. Yeah. It would react first, and I'd have to force it to go over a line. You can pull it back, but that to me is just.
Yeah, but that's what's driving that. If you think about it, Adam, what's really, pardon the pun, driving it. What's driving that is insurance companies.
But the only thing should be me that's driving it. The only thing that I trust is me.
Yes, but you're not. The insurance companies trust the AI more than they trust you, because it's been shown to them by whatever company that this whatever make car, the AI is not going to get tired. It's not going to get road rage. It's not going to do all those things. The AI is not going to get lackadaisy. It's not going to not put on the indicator. All these things.
It's not going to do donuts, is it?
Yeah, that's the thing. So because of that, that's the reason why. I mean, these companies are more likely to build cars where the AI will take over, simply because they don't. It's cheaper all around for insurance companies in general. Because
you're going to want a sex change operation.
Sorry?
It's not going to want a sex change operation.
No.
I saw a good question on that the other day. You know how these multiple genders, when you go and have your sex change operation, why are you only given 2 options?
That doesn't seem right. I think whoever's doing these surgeries need to have a lawsuit brought against them for not offering more options.
It's a very good question.
How y'all doing?
We're talking about.
Have a good Thanksgiving, mate.
Cars.
It's terrible.
Is he back in Discord?
Is he back in Discord? I've been in Discord for like a month. Yeah.
Thought you were working.
Can you still hear me all right?
Yeah. Stick your 2
Yeah, I
pence
thought
in.
you were working on something.
Are you automatic or manual preference for cars?
Listen, I'm getting older, man. Guess what it is?
No.
Automatic.
God.
And
Yeah,
boys are.
Of course.
All around boys are.
Of course. Thank you. Of course. Now, after how many days I'm out of the net, you ask me automatic or manual. Is that the depth we have
This is what
in
happens when we don't get a ball busters show.
There was no ball busters this week to begin with.
So we're talking about cars as a result of that.
See? You've lost interest in Flat Earth because
Good point.
No,
you went off. It's now,
no,
it's now a car show.
Go ahead.
So you're now on a car show.
No, on a cars. Oh, you said you guys lost interest in Flat Earth. Okay.
Yeah,
Speak for yourselves. I didn't. So how bad was it, Kiwi?
It was friggin' bad. That's all I got to say about that.
Right. I hate that when there's a holiday and everyone expects it to be brilliant and it all turns out terribly bad.
that's like your Chewy.
Say
As
again.
long as the in-laws don't come.
I like
I
my
thought they were
in-laws,
required.
by the way. Say again,
one
Adam.
in-law. I should be specific. When one of my in-laws comes, he don't want to leave.
Oh,
It's new
brother.
number, innit? I was saying
That
you
sure
sound
sounds
you've
like
got a
Adam.
cold. Yeah. You sound like you got a cold, mate. I was just wondering if you're all right. You sound a bit snotty and bunged up, like.
Well, I just woke up. I'm on a worse schedule now than when I left it. So, do I sound a little crackly?
Yeah.
That's just because I woke up. I haven't had my tea yet.
It's not tea time, is it?
It's well past tea time.
I'm still waiting on somebody to eat.
Hi.
You're waiting on somebody to eat it.
Yeah, I've always heard them say they're going to go eat their tea.
That's Anthony. Where's Anthony at? Oh, that killed it. How big are you? How small are you, Anthony?
Hello. You reading me? Yeah.
Hey, when are you going to start on that Glowbusters treatment?
After I get done with the other two numpties. Now, tentatively, I was going to do that last Friday, but that didn't seem to work out too well.
Instead of numpty clips, call them glumpty clips.
They're the treatments, and it seems like somebody else is taking over the flag.
Just giving my creative input here.
I should have copyrighted that. You know what? I was actually doing those treatments a long time ago. What did it start with?
I don't know, but
That's
you
a good-
should definitely use a special picture for it, like one of those chairs with like straps for arms and legs and all that, neck maybe.
The first thing I remember is
For the
toe
treatment.
tack.
I already use a special picture for it. It's shooting hippos, pregnant ones, in a fishbowl. Now, if you remember correctly, that Anthony was part of the treatment in the past. Remember those two numpties? Yeah, but I did one before that. Remember those two numpties he caught on the street corner? Remember those the dumbass cow and the other guy who thought they were all that in a bag of chips?
Yeah, on the first
Postgrads.
course. The university people.
Yes. That was a while ago. But I think I did it to Professor Dave and the Rumpus and somebody else. You know, remember that group? What did I can't remember what I called that. What did I call that? I should run that again. Lest
In
we
YouTube,
forget.
They call them reaction videos.
I don't care what YouTube calls it.
No, I'm saying in YouTube, they have a name for them called reaction videos.
Yeah, for the second time, I don't care what they call it.
Have you gotten any feedback from Glowbusters about your treatment yet? Any at all?
Me? They're not going to talk to me.
So not even like snidey troll comments from Witsit or something?
No.
Because he usually goes there.
No, they're not coming to me. They're not as stupid as they look.
Right. Well, that's a bad sign then for them. That means that they really are cornered. Otherwise, they'd still have some measure of bravada left in order to try to taunt back. Apparently, they don't.
Well, technically, Kiwi hasn't even gotten to them yet. He's still dealing with Rob Parks and the other guy, the
Well, no, he
engineer
did
guy.
the Jaren video first, didn't he?
Yeah, I was gonna say he definitely did that Jaren video, which took like 3 hours. Sorry, 5 hours, wasn't it?
Well, it was a fallacy of
Well, Jared,
every 12 seconds.
no, Jaren didn't take 5 hours, did it?
Was that the Whitson one?
Well,
We had
no, you're
one that was
thinking-
just way too long.
we did that one.
No, that
where
was
we
these
tried
two
to put it in
numpties.
group.
That was these two numpties I'm still on.
That's right. That start of that was 5 hours. The first one was 5 hours long, and a very entertaining 5 hours.
Way too long.
No, I thought it was brilliant. I listened to the whole lot.
It was in the middle of the night for me, man. I don't have the stomach for that in the middle of the night.
Yeah, but listen to it the next day then. I listened to the whole lot. I absolutely was glued to it. I could put it on, could do whatever I had to do, and do housework, whatever. Middle of the night, listen away. You know.
Okay,
I-
maybe
I
I,
got-
didn't
I
have
think
the
I got-
stomach not just because of the time, but also because it's just way too much.
I think I got the first one. I think I got the first one, the Globetard Brain Trust, 5/26/20. So May 26, 2020.
You're not including those as toe tags, right?
No, this wasn't a toe tag. This was no, I didn't call it the treatment, but it was the treatment. Don't you remember that? It had Professor Dave on there?
I do remember that.
Bob,
About it, yeah.
It had Bob the pseudoscience fallacy guy. It had Rumpus. It had it had the whole. It had that other numpty. Good Lord, I can't remember. It was that long ago.
Ruhif?
No, Ruhif wasn't on it. Remember, it was a live one. Hold on.
What you guys trying to,
LK.
what are you trying to remember?
Yeah, the Globetard Brain Trust. One of the first treatments. It was LK. You guys remember that?
Yes. He doesn't even. He's not even on the circuit anymore. A lot. You know, there's loads of people that we've debunked that just vanished.
Yeah, like Miles
Or
and
passed
Larry
on.
Davis, right?
Those are the more intelligent ones that leave.
Oh, it
Miles
had
Larry Davis is
LK.
still searching for the molten iron core.
Thanks, Arwen. LK, the Rumpus. Hold on. Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy, Mr. Cygnus Octeris.
And
One second.
Other assorted numpty dipshits.
I think it had somebody else on. Oh, it had okay, Professor Dave. We already went over that, and there was a cameo. He was there the whole time, but it was McBooger Eater and Soundly. How about that lineup?
Soundly.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry to take up your time. I had to scroll through to figure out who was on there.
Bob the science guy?
Yep. Remember, he said.
I stepped away for a few
I'm
seconds.
sorry,
I'm
go
just wondering why you were talking about this because I wasn't here to hear the beginning of the conversation.
We were talking about the treatments.
Sorry, my iPad interrupted me because I picked it up.
I was talking about when the treatments had started. I can't remember. Remember we did one with Anthony's idiots again? How ironic. I think they were at university. They were both physicists or something. I can't remember. It was a dumbass cow and another guy.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah. So those when the official treatment started before they've been pirated.
I think Nathan has stepped away again.
That.
I'm here.
Every time you mention somebody pirating the treatments, that somebody tends to not be at the mic.
Were you talking about me? Because I genuinely wasn't here. I did actually preemptively say I was going to step away, did I not?
I didn't hear you.
I think you'd stepped away at the time, Brian. Just sloped away without anybody noticing.
Remember Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy? What did he say? He said, my gravity is that my phone flips. Some stupid shit like that. Let me go back through here.
Fun times, hey?
Wait, was that the same one that Rumpus was telling the rest of them that they need to gather up and stop to make sure that the physicists out there stop telling people that gravity is not a force? Is that the same one?
Yes.
Nice. Wonder how that's working out.
My black corner pieces came from my fans, by the way, Q. I know you were concerned about it.
I was pretty concerned. I was worried about it over the whole holiday.
It's what ruined these holiday.
Go hunting for turkeys.
I didn't go hunting for turkeys there, sir.
Wabbits?
Hippos?
No, not rabbits. Yes. Silly wabbit.
Did you happen to break the bow by any chance?
No, I didn't break that. I didn't do no. I told you.
Well, you said things were terrible, so that would equate to terrible.
You know what I mean. Did I break the bow again? Sorry, bastards.
You had to be mid-competition in your bow break. That could be terrible.
What?
It must be because of your inherent subtlety.
I'm still trying to find. Go ahead, carry on.
Back to the cards, gentlemen.
Yeah, would Kit have been as good in Knight Rider if it was a manual? No.
Aston Martin, right? If you've got a Vanquish, which was cool, a Bond car, automatic, semi-automatic, like a robotized manual. Well, if you've got that car, you can take it back to Aston Martin and pay them about, I think it's about 35, 40 grand pounds to convert it to a manual. Why do you think that would be, Brian? Why do you think anybody would take the superior car in the form of an automatic and want to pay another 40 grand? If you're in the States, it probably cost you $80,000 to convert your Vanquish if you were an American owner of that car. To ship it back and have it converted and then ship back to the States. So $80,000 conversion. Why would you do that? Why would anybody in their right mind do it?
Because numpties exist.
Because it's better. That's why.
There's car numpties, Nathan. I'm sorry. Why would you do it? It's right. Why would you spend all that
to
money?
answer your question, no, Kit would not have been as cool if he was manual. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, why would you spend all that
That
money?
question is wrong. What a load of bosh. He's Kit. How can you be like controlling Kit? It's fully automatic Kit. It's not really a car. Michael didn't drive it.
That would have been funny though.
Kit was in control.
Should I put the turbo boosters on? Yes, Kit, do it. Can you put me in first?
Yeah. Kit's where they're heading, mate. So you're not driving.
That was where I left off just before I sloped away, right? Exactly. The dystopian view that Adam's trying to conjure isn't an unrealistic one, because that is the case. The cars will have automatic pilot. They'll be following a route like waypoints in the sky. And if they want to take you to a particular destination without your control or consent, that will be where the cars will eventually go in terms of what they can do.
Yeah, they can
when
easily
I was a
drive you
kid,
off
that
a
was the
cliff eventually.
when I was a kid, that was
Easy.
the coolest thing in the world. But now that I'm an adult, the last thing I want is my car to do things I didn't ask it or want it to do. That's just like I get the story that you told earlier about how it braked by itself and it actually saved your ass, and that's cool. I can appreciate that. I'm just not a big fan of it the way I was when I was a kid. Like sitting back reading a book while the car is driving, that was cool when I was 5. I'm not sure if I want that now.
Well, some electronic devices have been useful, like improvements, like steering reinforcement, right? Which is electronic, and it can turn off, and then it becomes super hard again, right? That's a useful invention. Why? Because it doesn't take over your control; it simply assists whatever you're doing. That's the way to go for vehicular development, but not take over the driver function, because that's just bad news. You're going
No,
to not learn to drive.
it's not all bad, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're driving home and it's late, or wherever you're going to, it's late at night, and you're driving in a place where you're on freeways or whatever, where you're racing lights all the way, and you have lights of oncoming cars at the other side, and the lights in ahead of you, the red lights blinding you, and you're tired. To be able to just go autopilot and it does its own thing, and you can go asleep or rest yourself. You know what I mean? Just go autopilot. Bring me to the nearest, gas station or whatever to get some coffee, whatever.
Bring me home, kid.
Yeah,
You can also just go by the roadside at a parking spot and sleep for an hour.
Yeah, and a truck can go. Some truck driver who's tired can fall asleep at the wheel and come up and plow right in over the top of you. Right. So
yeah, well,
I would rather
a misfiring electronic driver can do that just the same and can even be hacked to do so on purpose.
I would rather have the option of being able to go, take me there. I'm going to sleep for 2 hours. You know what I mean? I know I'm
just take an Uber then.
It's called a taxi.
Take an Uber.
Yeah, but you have to pay for a
lazy
taxi.
bastard.
Yeah, but take it. I don't know what that was.
Absolutely. Next Thursday sometime, I think, Eli.
He was in another dimension there. What about pilots flying long distances and for long periods of time? I mean, do you want them to have to constantly concentrate for 11 hours? What's the chances of them? What's the chances of more crashes happening? More crashes are going to happen when those pilots have to
low. It is actually so low that it is surreal. Okay, compared to, for example, traffic accidents. Yeah, the amount of accidents that happen due to pilots in airplanes is absurdly low. Why?
Yeah, but that's because
that is their entire profession.
Hang on. We're talking about autopilot hours, right? Prior to autopilot, was there more air crashes due to tiredness of pilots? Or did the pilots have to take amphetamine and stuff to keep themselves alert? You know what I mean? Now that they have autopilot, the pilot can put it into autopilot, keep an eye on everything they need to keep an eye on. They can rest. There's 2 of them. One of them can take a nap while the other person is looking at what's going on. You know what I mean? They can have coffee. They can relax. You know what I mean?
But it's much easier
without that,
with an airplane.
flying would be much more dangerous.
Open air.
Flying became
like route. You're not going to get into an accident that easy with an autopilot.
If you're trying to, without autopilot, you're trying to concentrate all the time. You will. You're constantly having to watch it. You're more likely to have an accident.
You're presenting a false dichotomy, because an autopilot from an airplane is a completely different story from any type of autopilot with cars. It's not the same thing. Not at all.
It's not a different story. It's the same thing.
No, it isn't.
Same thing.
It's not. Yeah, you can just keep saying same thing. It's not. The situation is diametrically opposed. Diametrically opposed.
Okay, you can keep saying diametrically opposed, Darwin, but...
Yeah, because he says, no, it is. Yeah. So I'm just saying it's diametrically opposed. The situation is completely inverse.
But you're not listening to me, Howard.
Yeah, but Brian has a point, man. It's just, like, as much as I just shit it all over, cars driving by themselves, and I prefer them not to do that, especially when I'm trying to drive. The whole situation with the autopilot's definitely different than the plane. right? I mean, than the car. The autopilot in the plane, that's different, right? And what Brian's point makes sense, because pilots do get tired, and if we have the technology that a plane can just navigate itself for a good while people chill, well, then that's a good thing, I think.
Because it's a totally different environment. It's an open air.
Well, of course it
the
is.
dangers is extremely minimum, and they're already being guided by a unified central, what do you call it?
No,
Traffic control.
Yes.
They have traffic control at their back already. So a lot of it has already been automated, but it works because it's airplanes. Because they're not physical obstacles every 50 meters that could literally wreck the airplane in a second.
Yeah, but Arwen, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The point is that the cars, the trucks on the highways, whatever, on the dual carriageways, like, they're going to have an autopilot situation where the truck driver won't have to constantly be watching and then falling asleep at the wheel or having to take amphetamine to keep themselves awake, because that's what they end up having to do. They get amphetamine off the doctors to keep themselves awake while they're driving. So they're literally high when they're driving, even though they're awake. So consequently, you end up with situations where you're leaving it up to human ability, which is limited. No matter what way you twist or turn it, human ability is limited. People will fall asleep at the wheel. But if a truck driver, let's say Adam, when
it's
Adam
not
was,
limited.
when that
Humans
car
provide
told Adam,
flexibility. Robots only do as they're programmed.
you know why that car told Adam that he was too close to the white line, or wasn't close enough to the white line? Because it was the truth.
You can also physically feel it when you're driving over a white line through the car tires, even in a truck.
Not
I
always.
know that feeling.
So when the car,
you don't need a computer to tell you that.
when some dodgy character gets in the car and says, "Take me to get my dime bag," and then the guy goes out, goes to the dealer's house, picks up his dime bag, gets back in the car, and then the car takes you to the police station, you're saying, well, the guy was a criminal. It's right, isn't it, Brian?
Shall we go to
listen,
jail?
listen, right? That's not a perfect world, right? I get it. But as opposed to the truck driver falling asleep and causing a massive pileup, would it not be better all around that there was an odd malfunction? See, everyone points out.
Hold on. You're going too fast. Hold on. You're going too quickly. You're going too quickly. What are the two choices? Pileup and death, or what?
Or you have AI there to take over.
Oh, well, I mean, when you put it like that, death or AI. I mean, AI, Brian. Obviously, you've got me there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brilliant option. Just leave all the intelligence to a much smarter computer. I mean, what could go wrong? You know, what could possibly go wrong? Computers don't need to sleep. They just do everything instantly. Yes,
like that.
Have you not seen the
computers do
Terminator?
everything. That'll solve the issues we have.
You're missing the issue. You're missing the
No, you're missing the issue.
The
And this
future's
is
not
it.
set. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves.
The Terminator, we just stop.
Yeah, that's cute, but you're actually going to have to blow up Cyberdyne to do that, though.
Well, unfortunately, that's the way it's going. And I want to be able to sit back and be looking at my phone as opposed to driving for those 2 boring hours on that dark road, unless I choose to drive. And then I will enjoy doing it. Put on music, actually drive. But when I'm bored of that or I'm a bit tired and it's safer, that rather than me driving along on my eyelids closing, it's safer all around for me to just go AI, do this. You know what I mean? It's safer all around.
You know what's safer?
Hold on.
Going by the side of the road at a parking spot and sleep for an hour. That's safer.
But that's
Hold on,
always
hold
safer.
on. So it's better to have safety than freedom.
That's essentially Brian's false dichotomy. Yes, that's correct.
No, see, you're the ones equating this ability to lack of freedom.
It is.
I'm not talking about taking away the freedom. I'm talking about the ability or the use of the technology. Why it's so good. How they will decide to use it might be different.
That's
but
what
that
we're talking about, though, Brian. No. Okay.
No, but they can use you.
Correct, Brian.
That's the
We're not accusing you of being incorrect, right? in the idealistic world that you're describing, the AI would work for me personally if I got into a car and told it where I wanted to go. And nobody's going to disagree with you when you lay down the safety benefits. But what John's just disseminated to you is the real nitty-gritty of what we're talking about. So you'll just trade a little bit of freedom, i.e. a controlled central network that's got potentially control over your car and where it goes, just a little bit of your freedom, because you're still telling the car where it's going to go 99.9% of the time. It's only in certain criminal circumstances that you won't have the control anymore. And in exchange, lots more safety. That's the trade-off, right?
Yeah, but
Criminal
yeah,
circumstances.
Go on, Kiwi.
I love the criminal circumstances. I like that little addition right there. Brian, I'd like to go back to another point. What did you say, year? Is that what when you were referring to, you know, the
group,
the Royal U?
Yeah, you're all doing this. Y-E-R.
Y-O-U-E-R?
Ye.
No, Y-E-R. You can just think of Y-E-A-R, like year, like this year. Just say the word year phonetically. Yeah.
The Beatles got a song like that. Year Blues.
I wouldn't be speaking up right about now, Neil, with yous.
I thought "yer" was a Southern thing. I didn't know it was Irish as well.
Hughes is also Irish.
I was going to ask QE, did anyone ask your opinion on automatics?
Yeah, that's the first thing they asked me as soon as I made my presence known.
Did they ask you if you're a homosexual automatic driver?
They didn't give me that false dichotomy or any criminal friggin' aberrations.
That was brilliant, Nathan.
Pardon?
That was brilliant.
How is the car going to know that the house you're going to is a drug dealer's house?
It's all anecdotal. Shut your fat face.
Right, you saying Kit doesn't know?
No.
You saying Kit's
Because
naive?
it's part of the database, so
Kit
it
naive?
can know.
Kit knows.
Listen, you just tell Kit to keep your scanners peeled, right? And he'll tell you what's going on inside the house.
You know what Kit would say?
No, when you're a drug dealer, you go and register your house where you're going to be dealing from at the local police station. So the car will know that when it goes there, that's a drug dealer's house.
He would say, Michael, you do know that's a crack dealer's house, don't you?
Well, one of the things that does happen is when you report suspected drug activity in your neighborhood, which happens quite a bit in some areas, there are files created. So we're talking about it like it's silly, but
Yeah, the people that reported, they get files made on them.
Neil knows.
We don't even need cars to do all this silly shit. There are people that will report themselves. People that'll call the cops and be like, somebody stole my weed. Like,
Like, the AI driver could simulate a voice and actually make false calls and all that at some point. It's going to be able to talk to you and ask you things. So why wouldn't it be able to call the police or, like, I don't know, hack the police database for drug information and all that?
Are you saying that while you're asleep or watching TV that your car is off busting drug dealers?
No. We're saying, would the car be complicit if you get into the Tesla and go, Tesla, take me to my drug dealer, right? And now the Tesla knows, doesn't it? I mean, does the Tesla have a moral choice, given that it knows you're doing a criminal activity? There's a lot of moral questions that are arising about these cars.
Yeah, but you can say
only if you program the car to think it's an illegal activity. If you haven't, then what the hell does the car know?
Car manufacturers are surely making deals with police anyway, so they could have a special clause with the Secret Service. Like, yeah, are we going to do this? Are we going to put this in here? NHS, you know?
Well, doesn't that beg the question on who's putting the moral code into the vehicle itself?
Doesn't beg the question, no.
Exactly.
No, exactly.
I mean, it raises
All
the
driverless
question.
cars will be like AI, FBI informants. All of them.
Wow.
Beg the question
going
fits
too
there
far.
too.
No, it
it's
doesn't.
just not a
It
fallacy.
raises a question.
Yes,
It's
it
not a
does.
fallacy. Begging the question's a fallacy. If you say it begs.
No, I didn't say begging the question. I said, doesn't it beg the question?
No.
Yeah.
That
raises
that-
the
Wait, that's
question.
not the same thing?
No, it's beg the question.
It raises.
It raises the
Oh.
question, but it
Yes.
also you can also characterize it as beg, as just like I said.
No. That's an anthropomorphization of language.
That's a bunch of horse shit. Go ahead and look it up.
You can't. Does language beg? Does it have a hat?
Oh, brother.
Raises the question.
Hey, he's coming back at you just like you taught us all.
All right, you're doing the same thing.
Don't beg
Does
the
it
question,
raise it?
Kiwi.
Yes.
Does it raise it?
No.
Yes. In
I
elevation.
agree with
I
Kiwi.
can acquire an
Yes.
angle.
Yes, it
Yes, it does.
Well,
Let me ask if
the question that you're saying it raises or begs, it's kind of irrelevant at this point, is
How dare
who's
you.
putting in the moral code that the computer is going to decide on what to act upon, right?
No, absolutely
Well,
not. No, the computer is just a conduit for the nefarious people who have control of the programming, and they are the people I would be concerned about, not the silicon.
Right, but the programs that they would install or have installed is the issue at hand, right?
Yeah.
So who would be programming them? Would it be those people or would it be car manufacturers? Or are they the same people?
It's more who would have access to the network. So if you've got a network of maps and a load of GPS connected cars that are all moving around in synchronicity and beautiful harmony, that's fine. Until somebody can have access to that system to take control of one of them, which is where we all started.
I agree with that part. Yeah.
Remember what happened to Breitbart?
Who?
That's years ago.
Who?
Breitbart.
What, they
Had an automatic- the guy in America, like a infamous journalist who dealt in leaking.
He's a news
information.
guy.
Yeah, he had a automatic car, a self-driving car, and it literally crashed. Like it sped up and then crashed him to death. Highly suspect. Highly.
Yeah,
And
but
that's
what
years
about,
ago.
remember that song that nobody wrote? Remember the song that nobody wrote that wasn't a hit that went like this? No way to control it, totally manual. Nobody ever wrote that. Nobody. I know it did.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, because the song goes. Yeah, it's no way to control it. Totally automatic.
Yeah, you're trying to
Every time you're around, or whatever. Yeah, ruin it, yeah.
No, the fact is, it's already happened. Driverless cars have already been used for nefarious purposes, been hacked effectively. It's already happened.
That's just an upgrade of. That's just an upgrade of cutting the brakes.
Yeah, that's what it is,
Instead
isn't
of
it,
cutting
Doctor?
somebody's brakes, now you just make it so that the car just accelerates into a wall or off a cliff.
You can still do that. You can still cut the brakes, metaphorically speaking, on an electric car, but the chances are the electric car will say, no, I'm not going to move. I've got broken brakes. So, yeah, on a very low-tech, scale, you can sabotage a manual car, if you want to call it that, a lot easier. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about Joe coming along and setting your car on fire, which is by equivalent, right? You can still petrol bomb an electric automated car. Yeah, so what? There's no different in that regard. But what we are talking about is somebody external to the person in control of the moving vehicle being able to move it, i.e. not you behind the wheel of it. Someone else being able to control it in any way, shape or form, to me, seems unreasonable. Now, you can argue all day long. What if you had a heart attack? The car recognised it and automatically took you to the hospital. Wouldn't that be brilliant? Yeah, it would. I'm never going to argue against that, because obviously in certain circumstances, you're always going to be able to position it in such a way that you convince the person you're talking that it's worth relinquishing a bit of freedom. That's what it boils down to.
No way to control it, totally manual. No, whatever.
So
Yeah,
totally
but
automatic.
Screw your
thing
freedom,
is-
assholes.
the thing is I think I can't remember which founding father it was that said, "He who relinquishes freedom for safety will lose both and deserves neither."
Franklin.
Right, but can I say something about like the self-driving cars? There's a systemic problem with this, right? Because yes, I would love to have a computer in my car that'll only do exactly what I want and like, yeah, do all these automatic functions. The problem is they can't. Like they really it cannot be built like this.
Sometimes,
Why?
John,
Because they need to constantly update routes, things that are happening, right? It's got to be in open contact with an outside database, and that makes it vulnerable
I can understand
because
for John,
of that necessity.
For John, I can understand being smart and frustrated at the same time. So what John's done is summarise the overarching point in this discussion so beautifully, and it was completely ignored in favour of talking about the actual whys and wherefores of automation of cars. Maybe if you say it again, John, maybe it'll get a bit more impact the second time.
Those who would surrender freedom for safety will receive neither and deserve neither.
Yeah, that's a great saying. But what about when you're tired and you just want to get home? And
I love
just
it.
want to
I
look at the
absolutely
phone?
love it.
You know what I mean?
Like,
Like
you're just gonna have to take a
you,
nap
you guys
by the
are
side
under
of
the
the road for
impression.
an hour.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me how you would justify surrendering your freedom. It doesn't matter to me how you would justify it.
Take it to a different extreme
good
for
for you.
Brian, right? As a pedestrian, Brian, right? Do you remember during lockdown when you were trying to slope around some of the security measures that stopped you moving around certain places? Do you remember?
Trying to. I was doing it.
Right. Okay. Well, you know, Brian, there is a certain school of thought that says that lots and lots of people get run over because they're not illuminated well enough. Now, if I made it really convincing to you that there would be less people run over on the road if every pedestrian always mandatorily wore a high visibility, high fluorescent vest at all times when on the road, so that everybody was always visible without exception, even if they didn't necessarily want to be. Would you be in agreement that that would save lives because everyone was always visible to the cars and the police who were chasing them and trying to hide and stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, if the people driving the cars or whatever, or the cars themselves, if the people driving the cars can see the person, I know this from Ireland because there's so many little dark roads where people are walking home in the night time and they have to wear high vis vests. If they didn't have them, there'd be way more deaths. So there's no way around that. Like.
What about when you don't want to be seen?
Well, if you don't want to be seen, well, that's a different thing. You don't have to be. You can.
No.
No.
These are mandatory vests that must be worn at all times, and in fact give off a high siren if you try and cover them up in any way.
Yeah, but that's a different thing, Nathan. That's a different thing, though, is it not? That's just you're mixing up safety with the taking of your freedom.
No, we're not.
If people decide to take away your freedom just to give you safety, then that's their manipulation of the situation.
That's what we're saying. That's our argument.
It doesn't change the wordiness of the idea.
Yeah, it does. ABS brakes are a safety feature, but there's no remote controlling those safety features to stop you in your tracks. So at no point when they introduced ABS brakes did they say, well, of course, because they're computer controlled, we can take control of the signal and just turn the brakes on. So, you know, it's all good, though, because you'll get ABS brakes and they're much, much safer. They just must be computer controlled, and we, you know, obviously can take control of them whenever we see fit. So in a high-speed chase with the police, in that circumstances, in exchange for your safety of ABS, the police will be able to press a button and stop your car immediately with the brakes.
Yeah, but you're forgetting something. You're forgetting that just like with other things in the world, especially in the past few years, what you're forgetting is that people eventually are just not going to want the vehicles that are going to take complete control whenever they feel like it. They're just not going to want those vehicles. People are just not going to want them things. There might be some vehicles that come out that people will buy, but eventually people will just not want them.
Yeah,
people won't want something that'll decide to bring it to the
I
power
get that. I
market.
get that.
No,
Yeah,
you
but they
can't go
already
there now.
exist. They're called bait vehicles. So what they do is they stick a car on the side, maybe with the engine running or with the car unlocked and the keys in the ignition, whatever. They leave it on the side of the road, and someone comes along and goes, "Oh, look at that! Free car!" Jumps in, turns the engine, drives 100 yards, and then the police turn the car off remotely and pull it over to one side and arrest the person inside it.
It's entrapment.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that that's a situation that Brian's saying. Well, what about when the people just don't want the car to be remote controlled? What, like that situation where the guy definitely doesn't want the doors locking remotely and the car stopping remotely?
Okay. But the people in general are not like. It's
Not criminals?
The past couple of years.
Not criminals?
People in general are just going to. They'll put up with a little bit of their freedom being taken at first, but then eventually you're just going to go against it. That's what happens.
No. By then it's too late.
People will-
Let me just make the point to Brian. By then it's too late. That's the point.
It's no longer an option, Brian, to not buy that. That's all that is.
But people, what people will do is they'll buy less and less brand new cars if they are going to have all these things in it. People will be more
Cash
likely
for
to go
clunkers
for,
and get rid of the old
and
ones.
banks will be giving people loans to buy cars that are second-hand cars, good second-hand cars that don't have this control.
Says you. We started this conversation with Brian saying he would be seen dead in a 2002 Lamborghini, only the 2021 version, or newer.
But that's because I understand what exclusivity is. That's because of that. I mean, I drive it
and that mentality. So hold on, Brian. So you're saying that mentality doesn't transfer to 99% of the other shallow people out there who know what prestige is when they see a Tesla?
I'm not being shallow. I'm just pointing out something.
How is that any different to a guy saying, "Well, obviously, I want the autopilot Tesla. A little bit of freedom loss isn't going to concern me. I'm not going to bear it into consideration. I just want the latest and greatest electric car." How's that any different?
Yeah. Yes, I understand that people will at first they will start buying these vehicles, but over the course of time, people are just going to go, "We don't want them." And car companies are not going to keep producing.
What are they going to do? What's the
don't
alternative? Once that's in place, what are they going to do? Get horses?
No, but they will have a function that will allow this overtake thing to be turned off.
No.
But there will be
No.
Hold on. So what if the older versions of the cars that don't have that? What if the producers of parts for those to repair them just stops producing
Already
the
happened.
spare part?
Already happened. Try and buy a 5-year-old or greater Tesla and see how you get on when the battery fails.
Yeah, it won't be. That's the thing about those.
Well, it's scrap. That's what it is.
Yeah, but the electric cars are going to last. They don't have the grid. Nowhere has the grid to run them. Can't be done. They're a joke.
Yet.
Exactly.
They're
That's
not going to have.
That's an appeal to technology. That's an appeal to not having the technology at the time. But we're constantly upgrading that technology. I don't think that's a good argument.
The infrastructure is not a problem, Brian. By demonstrable history, it's not a problem.
I beg to differ. I would say that we will never have the grid that we would need to power everything and power all those electric vehicles.
Bet you £1 it happens within. I bet you £1 we're 90% there within the next 10 years.
I would say you're pretty spot on to the amount of infrastructure that's being, like the money that's being pumped into the infrastructure now, and the creation of the windmill farms, the solar energy farms, and the reinstatement of nuclear. It's not. We're not that far away from it.
If you want to know the world we're in, read 1984. If you want to know the world we're going to be in, watch Minority Report.
Yeah, I understand it. I understand that. But what the claim is that everyone's going to be driving electric cars. No, I don't believe so. I think electric cars are going to fall by the wayside, or they won't be as popular as they are talking about them being. Other cars that use fuel, like hybrid cars, will still be being made and still be used and bought. But hydrogen-powered cars and cars using salt is also a possibility in the future. So it's not just going to be electric.
definitely not.
People
in
made
terms
the
of simplicity,
same argument when trains came along. They said, why would they trade in trains when we have horses and buggies that are so much more reliable?
more fun to drive, get the
No,
back end out
trains.
on that buggy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you
So
can go off
you
road.
have to build all this infrastructure for this train when you can just get a horse and buggy and go. Why would anybody
No.
want a train?
Well, there's one
Trains are
advantage.
different.
It's
That's
the
a
weight
different
that a train can carry. But yeah, a horse and buggy can go
The
off road.
second time, Arwen's completely missed the point of the discussion.
I'm not.
Yeah, no, trains. That's a terrible example, John. Trains
it
are
isn't.
like it is a terrible example. You don't need to generate a ridiculous amount of electricity for trains.
You have to
You don't
generate
need-
a tremendous amount of energy to
Really?
make that train go.
I don't know.
Not
I think
electricity.
How
Yeah,
about
yeah,
electric
but
trains?
not-
How about those
anything
else you
magnet
need.
trains? They cost a lot of electricity, Brian. Come on.
I seen a guy get lit up by
the
the
first
third rail.
trains
That was
did.
a lot
The
of
first
electricity.
trains were. Sorry, Nick. What were we saying, Neil?
I said I seen somebody get lit up on a third rail in the subway. That was a lot of juice.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Neil.
I'm not saying that there isn't a lot of electricity goes into trains, but the first train wasn't electric. The first train was steam, remember? Right? Then they
Yes.
changed to electric when they had the grid to do it. Right?
Right, right.
The
When they had
electricity the
grid to do it.
trains take up in the US, John, will be the amount of electricity the trains in the US take up is nothing in comparison to the amount of electricity they need for the electric vehicles that they want everyone in the US to be driving. What about China? How are they going to do it with all those people? And India,
Right, but you're just
how are they
talking
going to have
about
everyone
power.
driving electric?
You're just talking about a power conversion for what we already experience.
Right.
With just using gasoline as opposed to battery. I don't see how you can say that that's not possible.
I totally agree.
I just don't.
Because it's the amount of draw on the grid.
Doesn't
The
matter.
grids, there's no grid that's even close. Go on.
Doesn't
No, but
matter.
there is there's a formula for this, right? The bigger the weight a electric vehicle, whether it's a train or a car, it has to drag. Like it costs less energy to have a lot more weight dragging around. That's why small electric vehicles are so inefficient, because well, they're still going to run out of juice, but they don't have all that dragging capacity, right? And they're still going to require a lot of electricity. Large, huge electric vehicles like maglev trains are relatively extremely more effective because they
Hold
can
on a
carry all that weight without expending as much electricity in comparison to the weight.
Hold on a sec. You're gonna have to cite that claim because you're talking about torque when you're talking about a vehicle taking off, and nothing has the torque capacity of an electric motor.
And the simplicity. That's the thing that will keep its longevity versus anything that's greasy and complicated like a normal combustion engine. What an electric motor's got going for it is its pure simplicity.
Right.
Yeah, but-
And by the way, the same formula counts for combustion engines, right? The more weight, the more efficient it does become, right?
Remember,
Of course, if you're just going to drag dead weight along everywhere, yeah, then it's going to cost you more. But if you're effective with what you're actually dragging around, cost effective, yeah, then it becomes much more efficient than just small vehicles.
remember when the
doing the
Simpsons
same.
covered the Freemasons? They called them the Stonemasons, and they're all sat around in the lodge singing, "Who holds back the electric car? We do, we do." Remember?
What?
Stonemasons, aka Freemasons in the Simpsons.
Oh, The Simpsons.
Just Google it. Google the Stonemason Simpsons song. And they're talking about stuff that's come to a lot of stuff that's come to fruition, not just electric cars.
Yeah, the Simpsons stonemasons were pretty interesting.
People think it's
Well,
predictive powers, and they'll often talk about Simpsons having like, oh, look at all the predictions that Simpsons made. It's like, it's not a prediction, it's foreshadowing. They know it's going to happen. They're planting the idea before it happens, so you're comfortable with it when it happens.
9/11 in The Simpsons.
See,
Well, I don't want to
a
go
lot
off
of the
arguing
9/11
into
stuff with The
that.
Simpsons is just people looking at stuff and saying that it's related to 9/11 when it isn't necessarily related to 9/11.
Come on. Can't pick one and not the other.
I don't know. Anyway,
Right. But the whole point of this is claim that the infrastructure isn't capable of holding up the electric cars. And as it stands now, that's true. But that doesn't take into account that the infrastructure is constantly being upgraded. It'd be like saying, well, there's no train tracks, therefore trains won't work. But yeah, that's why we built train tracks. You know?
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not a
but
good
train
argument.
tracks.
Same goes
Train
for any.
tracks don't need to be. You don't. Sorry, Nathan.
I was just gonna say it's the same for any structure. You look at 5G currently. Was the 5G a year ago? No. Is the 5G now? Yeah. Why? Well, because they set up the infrastructure.
Yeah, but you still have to produce the electricity. You don't need to produce anything once you have the train tracks down. You just need to make sure that they're maintained. You don't have to produce anything for that. They're steel and wood. They're in the ground. That's that. You know what I mean? When it
Sure,
comes
but
to the electricity grid, if you think about America, the amount of people, if everyone in America was driving a man,
It's back to this. It's just going in circles, John. You've said the infrastructure is not currently there, and John's agreed. He said, yeah, as it stands, you're right. But it doesn't alter the fact that the net amount of energy that's being used will probably be reduced if you compare it directly. How much petrol's burnt versus how much electricity will be used if you just burnt petrol to produce it. Now, I'm going to wager that it will be far more efficient electrically than it will be on gasoline. And that's all you've got to look at. What's the net efficiency? Right? Well, the infrastructure, that's easy. That can easily come. You've had the example with trains. You're not accepting it. You're like, yeah, but it's not there yet. No, it won't be for a while. But it doesn't alter the fact that there's huge numbers of benefits for electric cars. Massive amounts over a gasoline car. Huge. That's why it'll be an easy sell. But why haven't we had them up until now? Well, we've had electric milk floats. Why haven't we? Because there's no real benefit to the people who will be putting these things on the roads, the people taxing them for us and charging us for the electricity and all the other things that go alongside it, unless there's some aspects that benefit them over and above gasoline. And until now, there isn't. Well, with the ability to take control of the cars and automate things and AI, there is a real benefit to them. So they've got to be able to package that benefit in a car that will give you all of those features and more, so that you're sacrificing a little bit of freedom. Now, electric has got that in spades to offer. It's better. There's no two ways about it. It's better. So that needs to be in place to convince you to take a car into your garage that might, very rarely, on a really, really certain circumstances, relinquish your control of it for the benefit of someone else that isn't you.
I would say the opposite. I would say that electric cars, not the AI side of things, the AI side of things can still work with fuel and different fuels, whether it be gasoline, hydrogen, whatever. But I reckon electric cars are made to fail. Not that they won't exist, but they won't become widespread where everyone has an electric car. I don't see that happen.
I think you're wrong.
And I don't think they want it to happen.
You're wrong.
There is no mechanical AI. It's electric. AI runs on electricity.
Yeah, there's no ifs, buts, or maybes about this, Brian. This is happening. It is going to happen. You will see it. There will be a widespread electrification of cars. That is going to happen. It is happening.
No, I don't think. I think it's set to fail, and I think they know it's going to fail, and they have a reason for it. I don't see. There's too much. I just don't see them being able to do it, and they know. I actually believe they know they can't. They're setting it up to fail.
Why?
No, there'll be a hiccup in it, especially dealing with the battery and replacement, in the newer models, especially the battery failures. They're going to work on that, but they'll eventually make it cost effective because there's a want in place.
Anyway, we'll maybe take this up another day, because with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
what a day! What a lovely day!